Hello and welcome to the Kongversation.
Why is it that you get to do the hellos? I thought that there was like some rhythm to it.
We do every other season. We skip who does the hellos.
It's every other season. We have 3 seasons now. You've just decided that we're now doing an every other season thing.
My OCD riddled brain always has a master plan, Chad.
OCD riddled.
Because I don't let you in on it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Okay, so who are you again?
I'm Hyle Russell.
I'm Chad McCanna.
And this week we are once again joined by...
Just when you thought it was safe to listen to the conversation again, it's me, Joe Mudd.
Not
like
Joe
Mario
Honan.
versus Donkey Kong. There's always going to be more of me.
Much to the chagrin of Metroid fans everywhere.
Well, we're glad to have you back, Joe.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right. Well, we have a lot to discuss this week, guys. It's been a newsworthy couple of days. But first, I wanted to wish you all a happy...
Newsworthy. Are we going to talk about Brian Williams? Like, well, what do you mean? Like, when you say newsworthy...
I mean, it's been relevant to our interest here on the Kongversation
Okay.
as far as news goes.
Okay.
So, and also Brian Williams got suspended for 6 months, and Jon Stewart's leaving the Daily Show.
That's right.
Yeah, among other
It's
probably
been-
more important things. But
It's been pretty relevant
anyway.
to all of gaming media, actually. It's been all over the internet from what I've seen. Not the Brian Williams thing, the thing that we'll discuss later.
Yeah, gaming media doesn't give a shit about Brian Williams. That's
Right,
why
well-
I call foul on the
No.
gaming media industry at large.
gaming media probably cares more about his daughter getting analingus on that HBO show.
I don't even
Don't
know who
call
the
it
fuck
that-
Brian Williams is. He sounds like a tennis player.
Yeah, you know, there may be a distant relation to Serena and Venus. Yeah.
They're virtually identical.
Yeah.
Just put some dreads on him.
Honestly, yeah, if you put his daughter from the hit HBO show Girls in a lineup with Serena and Venus Williams, they're virtually indistinguishable.
Right. So anyway, that's the first and last time we're going to be referencing Girls this week.
This week.
Gentlemen, I just
what
wanted to
girls?
wish you all girls. No, I mean the HBO show Girls.
Yeah, Joe, he
right.
pronounced it with a capital letter and a copyright symbol at the end.
Right.
Didn't you catch that?
So
I
just
thought you meant
because you're not
genuine
getting-
human women, as if, like, you know, none of us have any contact with them.
No.
Very
Nor
often.
the Beatles song of the same title. He's discussing the currently copyright-heavy Girls television program.
Oh, God, I am
That's
out
right.
of touch with popular culture.
No, it's fine to be out of touch with the girls, in my opinion. But anyway, so
Well,
girls.
it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Well, if your standards for television watching are it's okay, then by all means watch.
No.
HBO's Girls.
I'm saying for someone who has high standards, it's okay.
I have higher standards than you do. To the point where I don't watch great shows because they don't meet my
exactly.
absurd-
That's what.
I would
When you
say
have high
Hyle's probably-
stand.
Hyle's probably one of the pickier people I know of.
Yes. High standards! ! Sign picky. Like it's there is there's a difference
right.
there.
Anyway, I just wanted to wish you all a happy Copcock weekend.
Oh
thanks.
yeah, that's right.
I'm
It is
delighted.
Copcock Eve, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's or if you're listening to this on Saturday, it was Copcock Day yesterday. If you're listening to it on Sunday, etc. But nonetheless, it is a 3-day weekend if you observe Copcock Day. So
Do you
happy
have your
Copcock Day.
Hyle? Do you have your Copcock rock prepared?
Oh, I got that. I got that in early January, but that does lead me into a little bit of a rant.
Uh-oh.
Aren't you guys just like? Isn't it irritating that Copcock Day seems to start earlier and earlier each year?
I
I
honestly
saw that coming a mile off.
I understand the underlying principles behind Copcock Day, and to me, it seems like there is a war being waged on Copcock Day.
Well, we established this a couple years ago because we're the ones who reintroduced Copcock Day to the world.
Right.
It's actually an ancient holiday,
Of course.
that's kind of fell under the radar thanks to the rise of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But Copcock Day has ancient roots. We rediscovered it, and
Right.
immediately,
Well, we rediscovered it to new listeners, thanks to the evangelism of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
That's right. And actually, it turns out through wacky time travel shenanigans, our website and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat were inadvertently responsible for creating Cobcock Day.
That's not possible.
It's entirely possible. Just read the feature.
I'm sorry. It was in a feature. It must be sanctified.
Besides being Donkey Kong enthusiasts, we are also scholars and historians, and we take this shit very seriously.
Right.
Well, personally, I'm just fed up of all those damn Queen Banana Birdists, trying to moan about us celebrating our culture. They should fuck off back to their own country, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Yeah. Cobcock Day. Love it or leave it.
Yeah. But I'm just sick, it's you go out in like early December, the Cobcock decorations are already in stores. And I'm like,
right.
It's Christmas time. Why are you putting Cobcock decorations all up in Christmas territory?
Look, nobody celebrates Christmas anymore. Give it some due. Let Christmas breathe. And then we'll celebrate Cobcock Day.
I mean, God, it's like it's frustrating. And then you can't even. It's like, it's the day after Christmas. It's Cobcock, day shopping season now.
It's stupid Bob Geldof song. Do they know it's Cobcock Day? And they wouldn't even bloody celebrate Cobcock Day, let alone know what it was going on.
Yeah. No, all they've got is flies buzzing around their eyes, and they have no idea that Father Cobcock is coming.
If any of you don't know what we're talking about, go to dkpine.com/features.
I can only apologize.
Just do a keyword search for Cobcock Day.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 things on there.
Yeah, for new listeners, Cobcock Day is a probably not invented holiday that allows us to celebrate one of the worst Donkey Kong Universe games ever. But
No. Jungle Beat isn't one of the worst. It's a fine game. Its intentions were the worst.
Hyle, it is among the worst. It is one of the worst. Come on, I'm not saying it's the worst. It's not Mario Party 6.
You haven't even played the original Jungle Beat.
I have played it.
The bongo version.
Briefly.
You can argue that Hitler had good intentions. That doesn't mean he was it wasn't one of the worst human beings ever.
Right.
But Jungle Beat.
Thank you for comparing Jungle Beat to Hitler.
Jungle Beat is like reverse Hitler in that it had bad intentions, but actually turned out pretty good.
It turned out pretty not terrible.
It was fun to play.
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, but you must have played that in an era in which you were surrounded on both sides by terrible fucking games.
No,
Well,
really,
yeah, that was
Jungle Beat,
welcome to 2004.
I would say Jungle Beat's in the top 40% of DKU games. And that's including all the cameo games. Chad.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's pretty bad.
Donkey Kongo, on the other hand,
Okay.
I have no love for.
Yeah, clearly.
I've never played Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, but it just thinking about it makes me cry, and I think my tears say more than real evidence ever could.
That's right. That's why they're inadmissible in court. Joe's tears.
Well, you know what, Chad? It's going to be the anniversary of Jungle Beat pretty soon, and the 10th anniversary. So what we'll have to have an episode, a spotlight episode, where we can maybe debate these finer points about Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
Maybe
into the history.
Maybe we should pick up New Play Control and play it, and so I can have an opinion on it.
From what Jeff tells me, that is actually an inferior version because it kind of guts the whole rhythm mechanic of the game, and you're left with something that tries to emulate Donkey Kong Country more, but it's still not Donkey Kong Country under the hood, so it's just kind of a mess.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember my dad did actually own the GameCube version of it with the bongos. And despite the fact that this completely pissed all over what everything his son stood for. And I'm wondering if that was better or worse than what he's currently doing, which is dating a woman from Russia, which also pisses all over my own values.
I'm confused. Is your dad Hyle / Russell? Because I thought only one person actually owned this thing with the bongos.
Jungle Beat, Chad. You're conflating Jungle Beat with Donkey Kong guy, and you shouldn't do that.
Why? Because they were they were games developed by the same studio with the same... Wait, not the same studio, Namco. With the same niche peripheral in mind.
Yeah, but I would say more people play Jungle Beat than Conga 2. I think the sales back that up.
But anyway,
What about freshly picked Donkey Konga 3?
Well, that was exiled to Japan. It was like it was like a Godzilla monster.
That's like saying... You can't say exiled. That's like saying I've been exiled to America. It's where I'm from.
But anyway, listeners, you tell me, if you've got a gay Donkey Kong Country loving son, what is more disrespectful and offensive to him? Buying Donkey Kong Jungle Beat or going to Russia in order to find and marry a Russian woman?
Wait, so because you're gay, you don't want him to marry a woman?
Or is it the... so it's like the Sochi
buying
Olympics.
Russian, buying
Russia,
Russian
okay.
products and going to visit Russia.
Well,
and
not all Russians are homophobic, though.
Right? Or is your father's wife homophobic?
Apparently not, no. So I suppose that's good. At least you should pick up one of the good ones.
Yeah, no. So that's okay.
That's like saying because Chad's from Texas and I'm from Virginia, we're both homophobic and racist and
Hyle's inbred.
misogynistic.
Hyle's inbred too.
That's West Virginia again, Chad.
That's fine.
West Virginia, it's all the same. That's me being Virginiast.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm from the kind of inbred backwards farmer part of the UK as well. So that's why I've got That's why I've got 2 limbs with 17 digits on them.
Oh, I was gonna say that 2 limbs. Ew, but actually, no. You should have 4. Yeah.
Well, if you have 17 digits. Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, 7. I thought you had 17 on each hand, and I was like, that should really help your golf game.
Yeah. Any prime number of digits should not exist in nature. That is how Jodie Foster was able to tell that there was intelligent life in the universe. All right, so we have some due diligence that we ought to get through.
Because we didn't do it last week because it was a honorable mentions episode, and we just wanted to plunge right into that Jet Force Gemini.
Right.
We're gonna take some calls. But how do you call the conversation? Well, Hyle, you call 1-281-410-KONG. That's 5664.
Yeah.
And just leave a message. You don't have to rehearse. You don't have to read lines. You just call us. Be yourself. I'm sure yourself is a lovely person, and we want to know yourself. So call.
If you want to call the conversation, it's 1-281-410 and a word. That word is Kong. K-O-N-G. 5664.
More
this
bits
is the least ambiguous.
More bits keep getting added on at the end. It's like the
jingle.
Team Rocket motto, where they kept adding more bits on at the end.
That's there's ever been. Thank you, Joe, for interrupting my jingle.
Me, Alf, that's right. Wow, that's it. Mime, mime. And then whatever new fucking Pokemon.
Oh my god, did they add Mr. Mime to that?
Oh, Mime Jr.
Oh no, there is a Mime Jr.? I guess he's a pre-evolution of Mr. Mime?
Yeah. Oh, this
Boo!
was like 10 years ago, Chad.
Oh my god. See, I don't care.
Yeah. I don't know what they've got in the anime now. God.
As soon as I stopped watching around the time that Ekans evolved into the Cobra one.
Arbok.
Oh,
Arbok.
I thought you were gonna say Ekans evolved into David Tennant. That's Eccleston. That's
Eccleston. Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Fantastic.
All right.
No,
so
I've often said I gave up on Pokemon when they wouldn't let me transfer my Missing No over. Screw that.
bastards! How dare they course correct an unintentional bug?
Look, I'm saying if you don't draw attention to your bug, don't call him Missing No and give him the number 0 and treat it like it's a legitimate thing.
Yeah, they really should have done, shouldn't they? They should have just acknowledged it and run with it, I think.
They should have, but honestly, if I didn't know better, I would say that Missing No was indicative of the fact that there was no established name for that Pokemon because it was a missing number.
Yeah, I know. And then the missing number is 0.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, it's whatever. Yeah, they really should have embraced Missy No because I would buy the hell out of Missy No merchandise.
I know that we talked about it. We talked about it on the Smash, on one of our myriad Smash Brothers episodes. But
Chad, you were only on like 30% of those.
Shut up. I would have loved for Missing No to have been an assist trophy that garbled the screen. That would have been fucking brilliant. But again, even if Sakurai wanted to do it, there's no way Game Freak would have let him.
It's like two of my favorite Nintendo things are Missing No and Virtual Boy. They're just now getting around to acknowledging the Virtual Boy again.
Yeah.
But Missing No, I think that's going to be a long, hard battle to fight.
Yeah, even in Europe, even they didn't hastily edit out the Virtual Boy and the Game of Wario stage on Smash Brothers. They left it in. Although, considering considering at this point they've realised, you know what, fuck it, nothing in this game is going to make sense to anyone, so it doesn't matter if people don't recognise.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to the due diligence.
Oh, yeah, we gotta do that.
You can subscribe to the Kongversation on iTunes.
Rate us, don't rape us.
Well, no, rate us. Don't seduce us with a nice back rub and some Kenny G music, and then feed us some oysters because we will spread our legs for you. But it'll be voluntary, so it'll be okay.
That's actually, you can do that to me, but not to them. Just me.
Follow DK Vine on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube at dkvine.com/Facebook/Twitter/Tumblr/YouTube.
Don't forget the launching of our brand new YouPorn page where you can see all of the pornographic, all of the scandalous nude pic leaks from all of the DK Vine staffers.
Chad, would this be a good time to mention that streaming thing that you witnessed?
Oh yeah. So there's a website called My Free Cams.
Are we plugging this website?
I've already done it.
Don't listen to Mr. McCanna here.
And on My Free Cams, I discovered one night, alongside my beloved wife Janelle, mind you.
She's mortified if she's listening.
Yeah, probably. We go to My Free Cams every now and then just because we're the kind of couple that goes to eFucked and looks at weird fucked up videos and like whatever. So we go to My Free Cams to see who is desperate across the world right now. It's
not you two.
Not us. We're desperate for entertainment, not money.
And that's when your parents appeared.
Yeah. So on My Free Cams, I fucking shit you not. I was screen capping and sending these to the DK Vine staff chat as it happened. There was a woman who was dressed in nothing but a DK tie. Apparently,
I did see that.
It was a theme night for her chat room because there were bananas all over the room she was in. She was dressed in a DK tie.
How moistened were these bananas?
Fairly to generously, and she was basically masturbating and doing a whole nude show as Donkey Kong. Brunette wearing nothing but a tie. I can only assume that was a Donkey Kong cosplay.
Check out her coconut crackers.
Right. Well, I mean, it was like it was like a red tie with yellow DK. What else could it have been?
Well, yeah. What else could it have been?
I'm saying it wasn't like I'm not saying it was.
It was her Ruth Bader Ginsburg impression, Chad.
I'm not saying this was a naked woman surrounded by bananas wearing a blue necktie. She was doing a Donkey Kong thing on My Free Cams. What the fuck?
I think Matt did that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, was she all confused, or
no? She was the smarter pre-DK64 Donkey Kong, from what I could gather.
All right. So did she ever say banana slamma or okay or anything like that?
No, I think there might have been some banana slamma. I think she was a TV show fan. That's why I didn't watch her to completion.
And she probably broke out in this 2-minute song.
That's right.
Just really interrupted the flow.
Yeah. It was disruptive to the enjoyment of her nudity.
Oh, sorry. I've ruined that by laughing at it so much.
That's all right. That's why we bring you on, so we can validate our own stupid stories.
I'm just glad it wasn't a Crystal cosplay, 'cause
Those are horrifying.
those are the worst.
Yeah.
Oh dear, imagine one day at DK VineCon we will have people cosplaying as Cobcock and Dude Illigence and some naked woman running around in a crystal mask with, this cosplay is DKU written across her boobs.
I would like to see a man cosplaying as the woman from my story.
Well, Matt's already done that years ago, hasn't he? At
Matt
Gamer.
and Jeff.
No, but they would have
And
to
Jeff,
have
yeah.
breasts and a prosthetic vagina. To be like fake breasts in a skin tight suit with a prosthetic vagina, dressed as the woman from my free cams, who is dressed as Donkey Kong.
All right, I'll see what I can whip up.
All right, Joe's on the case.
Anyway, so for more stories like this, tell your friends about the show. Let them know that we'll be plugging the best Donkey Kong related sex cams.
That's right. Well, I'm not plugging her cam. I don't know. I never actually logged who she was. It was just from my free cams.
No, okay.
Sorry, lady.
So now Donkey Kong fans across the world are going to be logging onto the site, hoping to catch a glimpse of some DKU nudity.
It's mostly a lot of sad Russian women. That's really all that it is.
Is Joe's dad's significant other on there?
That's how we found her.
Okay, so subscribe to us on iTunes, rate us, give us 5 stars if you like the show. If you don't, please don't give us any stars. Just ignore the last 15 minutes.
If you don't like the show, please turn it off and stop listening to it.
Right. And do not take any action of any sort. Anyway, we're on Facebook. You should definitely check that out. We have over 30,000 Facebook followers, which is...
So it must be quality.
Right. That's a number that boggles my mind, by the way.
We're going to try to aspire to... obviously, we can't compare to the likes of Kim Kardashian and... Justin Bieber on Facebook, but we're getting there.
No, even after I posted my awesome break the internet picture, where I
What's that?
Flashed my big fat ass.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I haven't seen that one yet. Well, that should recruit all the Kardashian fans, right?
Should hope so.
Yeah, were you pouring champagne into a glass on your ass though?
It was actually just like cheap pound shop lager because I couldn't afford champagne.
So you're kind of like the bargain basement Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Joe, put that on your business cards. All
Can't
right,
afford
so
Kim Kardashian. Try Joe Mudd.
we have some phone calls we ought to get to.
That's right. Hey, by the way, Chad, Kim Kardashian's probably in the city tonight because Kanye's performing.
Oh, you mean, the same Kanye performance that ruined my fucking work commute because I walked past that goddamn park every morning and I had to go like 5 blocks out of my way because the police decided at 8 in the morning it was appropriate to cordon off like 3 city blocks when Kanye was going to be performing 11 hours from then. Yeah. Anyway, a big fan of Kanye West. Love the guy.
I still think you missed the chance, Chad, to walk in and say, "Sorry, I'm late, everyone. Kanye West was just terrible this morning."
Actually, pretty much everyone walked in saying exactly that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I went and talked to my boss and said, toward the end of the day, do you mind if I get out of here a little early just to beat the Kanye nonsense? And she said, yeah, I was probably going to do the same thing. Yeah, just fuck Kanye. That's all I have to say.
That's what Bonnaroo said.
Bonnaroo! Yeah. Hyle? Nothing?
Oh, sorry. Bonnaroo.
Oh, please.
I'm just remembering the sunstroke I was suffering from. So, yeah, it's a little hard to...
A little muted, yeah. So, let's hear those calls.
Hey, guys. It's Metri/Tony again. So, as it turns out... there's some PUD content from Smash 4. Yeah, some hackers found some stuff by data mining it, and they found some Rhythm Heaven content that was cut, which is, well, if you don't know, it's my favorite game of all time. Even more than Donkey Kong, I'm sorry. But with that said, let's not dwell on that. Got me thinking about something else. most importantly, is there any cut content from any DKU games that you wish would have stayed in the final product? Now, we all know the famous ones, Stop and Swoop, but seriously, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about other stuff. So, me personally, and I know you like this a lot too, Hyle, City Kong or Commuter Kong, or whatever you want to call him, from Donkey Kong Land. Like, just looking at that little, image from Nintendo Power, makes you think, could he became like a recurring character, or was he just destined to just appear in this one little GB game? So once again, is there any cut content from any DKU game that you wish would have stayed in the final product? Oh, before I forget, I decided that I'm going to attempt to 100% Donkey Konga 2. I bought the game off of eBay, and I'm waiting for it to arrive. I have the DK bongos already, and I have my Wii set up, and I'm going to 100% it. Just because, I feel so bad for Hyle that he can't do that. I'm going to have to avenge him. So I'm doing this for you guys. Good luck. I need all of it. Anyway, see you guys. Stay safe, and Donkey Konga 2 is going to get beaten. Don't worry. See ya.
So, Mamechi, you are quickly becoming a regular fixture here on the show.
That's right. That's how you do it without paying $150. You call into the show at 1281410 KONG.
I got on the show by offering regular hand jobs to both Chad and Hyle, who I'm currently doing them both right now.
Yeah, well, okay, but Joe, in fairness, they are above standard quality hand jobs. So
yeah, they call me the
basement
rower
at
because
least,
the
but-
way I do it, just like one of you either side of me, just pulling back and forth.
for more on that, watch Silicon Valley on HBO.
What?
No, there's I shit you not. The mathematics behind doing a double tug is discussed on last season's finale of Silicon Valley. And
really?
it is one of the reasons that is one of my favorite shows on the air right now.
Also, on the Tropical Freeze episode of the My Free Cams Donkey Kong cosplay.
So, American television's really going through a renaissance at the moment. British telly is rubbish now. It's like, I might as well just say, I'm just going for a cup of tea. And you go, oh, Joe, I'm just going for a cup of tea, the new HBO show.
Oh, God, Joe, the way you pronounced that, it just made me really shudder, because I know if Renee Zellweger ever has like a career resurgence, the media is going to call it the Renaissance.
No, Hyle, that would require the media to be half as clever as you. And I don't know that that's ever going to happen.
If she launches a porn career, they could just call it the Renee's arse.
Renaissance. Nice. Okay.
All right, well, back to Mamechi's call.
Sorry, Mamechi.
So, yeah, hackers have stripped up Smash Brothers. They've chopped it up.
Sure.
And they've seen little bits inside that we're not supposed to see.
Right, and we've seen the Me songs. We talked about that. The Miiverse stage. There are some music tracks that were set aside for that, which has obviously not yet been released.
Oh yeah,
you can't see it right now, but I'm doing a double tug pantomime right now. That's how little I care about that.
About the Miiverse stage.
Yeah, or the songs found therein. It just.
But Hyle, don't you want to battle to Poot? Anyway, yeah. Mamechi's a fan of Rhythm Heaven. I know that there were a lot of people that said like the chorus men ought to be fighters, and apparently
Sal Romano, a master macaroni chef, that was part of his rumor.
Right. And apparently that may have been part of it and then cut. So who knows?
Well, they would probably cut those guys the second they realized the ice climbers couldn't work.
Yeah.
No, because they would be teaming up, and like they cut Pokemon Trainer because they could only have really one character at a time.
Yeah.
So
it was part of like the video card restrictions from the 3DS.
Yeah,
which is really unfortunate considering tomorrow, or as you listen, yesterday, Nintendo globally released a system that could have accommodated all of those things.
Yeah.
Video card killed the Brawl Star.
Yeah.
So So yeah, Momechi's question was, is there any cut content from a Donkey Kong Universe game that we really wish would have made it in the final game? And,
It was nice of you to reiterate that question for those listeners that didn't listen to Momechi articulate his entire question.
I was just trying to shore up our conversation here because we can go off the rails.
Right.
Yeah.
Summary, please.
Now, Momechi was kind enough to eliminate Stop and Swap from the discussion, so thank you, Momechi. And he referenced the cut content from Donkey Kong Land, which makes that something that would be redundant to therefore mention. So,
Commuter
thank
Kong.
you. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that content, obviously, but I think Donkey Kong Land is fine the way it is. It's not like I stay up at night grieving not getting Commuter Kong.
You haven't done that since at least 2002.
That's right. Or the was it the Mountain Goat Animal Buddy or
Right.
Enemy?
Rambunctious.
I see, with the Commuter Kong, the problem with Donkey Kong Land was it was such huge sprites on such a tiny little screen that seeing another large gorilla running back and forth would have just been confusing as hell, because you would have thought it was an enemy, you would have tried to kill it. It would have been so distracting unless they had it as a static background element, and then if they did, it would have been too small to see. So,
Well, one theory about Commuter Kong was that he was going to be the Kong helper of the game. Either you go to him to save your game or do something, or maybe you go to him to cash in your coins to play that mini game.
or he could run the Funky's flights. Like it could be like a tube underground station that takes you between all the level worlds instead of just
like a Futurama thing. Like boop, you're there now.
no, like what London and New York have. Sorry, we call it the tube here.
Oh, when you said tube, I didn't picture like a subway station. I pictured a literal tube.
I pictured the internet.
I wonder maybe that's why they invented that in Futurama, because they heard the term the tube.
Could be.
Yeah.
I just pictured the internet, which we all know is a series of them.
That's true.
According to Al Gore, who invented it.
Yeah, right. And the
No, it wasn't. It was that.
and the Alaskan Senator Ted Stevens.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my political references are so dated.
I was just going to defend Al Gore for a second. He never actually said he invented the internet. He said he spearheaded the initiatives that made the internet more widespread, which is fundamentally true. So
Was that ARPA and DARPANet?
No, he said it.
I don't know.
Wait, so you say it's
No, he said it
fundamentally true
Mean Girls
without having
style.
a fundamental understanding of the origins of the internet?
I understand the politics. I don't understand the technology.
Jesus Christ.
Al Gore said it in a Mean Girls sense. He said, "I practically invented the internet, you know."
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So it was one of those non-ironic, ironic things, or non-literal, literal things. Yes.
Yes.
He never actually said it. Like the quote is, he never crossed that where he said, "I invented it." That's what
this is old liberal Hyle Russell trying to correct the record on something no one cares about.
Fighting the battles of 15 years ago.
It's Hyle Russell, Virginia's answer to a question that no one asked.
So Momechi, my answer would be that I would restore the Dinosaur Planet content from Star Fox Adventures.
That's a whole lot of shit.
And exactly, and that's the thing. It's
you just want Dinosaur Planet.
Well, it's completely impractical, and I mean, if we're talking about the kind of thing that was on that shows up on Unseen 64, basically pre-release content that was excised. What I would, I mean, we've talked about Dinosaur Planet before. There were a number of iterations. The first, obviously, the Nintendo 64 purely Dinosaur Planet with Randorn and the Majestic 8, I think. All of those planets and Crystal and Saber. I would like to see that intact, but I would also like to see the GameCube iteration, because even after it was ported to GameCube, they still maintained a lot of those plot elements until ultimately what I assume was the impending Microsoft sale forced them to cut a lot of them out and ship it. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what I'm reading into it. And as a result, I mean, not only were a lot of the story elements cut from the game that thankfully hackers have allowed us to at least hear a lot of the audio behind that, which you can see on YouTube. But even the final boss battle of Saber was completely cut from the game. So I would like to see a lot of that content restored, because Star Fox Adventures is one of my favorite games, and I fell in love with it before the Star Fox property was even ascribed to the title. So there's my answer.
Yeah. I feel like, as much as we talked about Jet Force last week, and that was a major obsession of yours for a while,
Right.
but I think you really, Dinosaur Planet hit you in exactly the same kind of way, and it was made doubly special because it was DKU.
Yes, and I would totally agree with that. I mean, Star Fox Adventures, or I'm sorry, Jet Force Gemini hit that. Like, I was never like a Star Wars fan growing up. I mean, I appreciated it, and then when the prequels came out, I appreciated it less. But it was never like my thing. And so to me, Jet Force Gemini was that spacefaring opera that a lot of people appreciated with Star Wars. And that same caliber of fandom is what I got out of Star Fox Adventures / Dinosaur Planet as it pertains to prehistoria, dinosaurs, that kind of stuff, which I obviously, as a child of the 90s, I loved as a kid. So you got space, you've got dinosaurs, and in Star Fox Adventures, you had dinosaurs and space. So it was like right in that wheelhouse for me, and you're exactly right. I had that same caliber of fandom for it, but I would have really loved to have seen Rare exercise its creative muscles on a new universe rather than having to shoehorn Star Fox into this.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, is there anything you would like to see?
Yes, I would like to see some of the cut content from possibly the second most tampered with DKU title, with perhaps the most different iterations in its development. Can you guess what I'm talking about?
Either Donkey Kong Racing or it's Mr. Pants.
Banjo Pilot.
I would say, yes, Banjo
Oh,
Pilot.
Yes.
shit, yeah.
I would like to see, well, Diddy Kong Pilot looked good, but all I would really love to see would be the Vauxhall version. Not Vauxhall as in like the place in London or the car manufacturer. Vauxhall, Voxel, version of Banjo Pilot, where they managed to create like polygon graphics on the Game Boy Advance out of cubes. Because I think that technology would have looked absolutely incredible. And it would be completely obsolete now, obviously. It would just be pointless. But I just love seeing old video game technology and really like ingenious ideas like that. And I've never seen that done anywhere else. It probably has been done somewhere else. But
if you don't know what Joe's talking about, do a Google image search of it, because it is really impressive for the Game Boy Advance. Yeah. And it couldn't hold up. They had to cut it because it was breaking the game.
Right. It worked for... Yeah, it worked for all of the opening cinema, and then once you actually introduced gameplay logic and artificial intelligence, the Game Boy Advance could not keep up. So,
yeah, it would have been so amazing if they could have pulled it off, though.
Yeah.
Rare took the initiative to announce this before they even knew if they could get it to work, which shows how much confidence they
hang
had.
on. No. They didn't announce the voxel version. That was something.
Yeah, they did.
No, that was something that was leaked way later.
No, Chad. I remember they announced it, and it nearly broke DK Vine the day they announced the new graphical overhaul of Banjo Pilot. Yep.
It's a shame because it would have justified it being a playing game as well.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll let Saf or Sean on the forum decide which of us is right, because I don't remember the voxel version being debuted until way after Banjo Pilot had been released.
No, this was before, and it was very disappointing when they reverted. Pretty sure
I remember seeing screenshots of it before release and then being disappointed that they'd gone back
Chad,
to.
All right, maybe I'm wrong.
You and I were both on DK Vine the second this broke, and we were just amazed. Like 40 people were in the thread at once. It was ridiculous.
That's the most we've ever seen.
No, but for a single thread, that's pretty good. Like you only get like the E3 discussion threads that ever reach that level.
It's a shame because it looked so the Spiral Mountain level looked so authentic to the Nintendo 60. It looked like basically Banjo-Kazooie PS1 almost, in that everything was more kind of pixelated and lower res, but it's still like the same graphics and like geometry. Yeah, it's a real shame that they couldn't get it to work, because it would have been such an amazing technological breakthrough. It would have been exactly the kind of thing Rare used to do in the old days, push a console to its limits. Unfortunately, here they pushed it past its limits.
Right. Well, and that's, I think that's kind of quintessential to, like, one of the reasons Nintendo wasn't keen to keep Rare is because not only did they push things, but they pushed them too far and then dumped resources into pushing things too far that ultimately they weren't tenable.
Yeah, and
but
needing the expansion pack for Donkey Kong 64 just because it would simply make the Nintendo 64 crash.
Right. It's like, aside from that one random bug that the expansion pack fixed, they didn't need it at all.
But to be fair, wouldn't Nintendo ever release the expansion pack were it not for that game?
Yeah, they would have for Majora's Mask, because that one did need it.
Yeah, but so there you go, though. I mean, you had to get the expansion pack out at some point, so...
That's true. They just got to pack it in with DK64 rather than Majora.
Exactly.
And that also benefited players of Perfect Dark, because there were some modes in Perfect Dark that required that pack.
Right. So for my answer, you guys have already touched upon things I would like to see, but it's hard for me because I think most of the aborted DKU content that I long for are just the outright canceled games like Donkey Kong Racing. Not to give that, I think my answer is a lot more simpler. And since he already touched upon Stop and Swap, I think my answer would be I would like to see some of those unused elements of Banjo-Kazooie that aren't Stop and Swap. Things like Mount Fire Eyes and Fungi Forest. And,
it's a shame we never saw what Fungi Forest looked like. We can only dream what Fungi Forest.
I bet that was going to be really cool, with probably an amazing Grant Kirkhope soundtrack.
But do we know for sure that the version we got in Donkey Kong 64 was the Banjo version? Obviously, they changed it up quite drastically to fit Donkey Kong 64.
Well, I reckon it wouldn't have been, on the grounds that Banjo-Kazooie, if it were the same, Banjo-Kazooie would basically have two levels where the concept is, this is a forest, there is only one tree, and time moves at a strange pace which you can control.
Right.
They wouldn't have done that exact concept twice, would they, in one game?
Right.
So yeah, it would have been different, but God knows, I think it would have just been Click Clockwood with mushrooms, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, see, for me, though, like, there's so much mythology behind that first Banjo-Kazooie game, and part of that is connected to Stop and Swap, just searching for things, poring over clues, and there's just so much magic behind that game that I really would like to see the things that didn't quite make it in. And I know, like, they were never probably even developed fully, but I would still just like to see more of that stuff reinserted, like the lava room in Gruntilda's lair. Right. I would love to see that being the entrance to Mount Fire Eyes and what would a lava world.
We even talked about that as like, I remember beak bombing. Well, no, you couldn't do it in that room, but I remember repeatedly jumping into that lava pit in the hopes that I might trigger some kind of like entry zone into the lava world.
Yeah, I thought for sure something was going to rise up from that lava, and that would be the entrance to Mount Fire Eyes.
That would have been fucking cool if Stop and Swap had paid off.
Yeah, in the days before, the internet was such an easy thing to use and so widespread. What a trolling thing for game developers to do, to have a character say, I'm going to go to the lava level, only to find there is no lava level.
I just mentioned this, I think, one of the DK Vine staffers the other night. Maybe it was you, Joe, I don't know. But I can remember when the voxel version of Banjo Pilot was unveiled, but I can't remember what I said to my friends a day ago. But I said that it was actually searching for answers about the ice key and eggs that got me onto Rare's website in the very first time.
Right.
So yeah, it was quite the time, quite the.
Yeah, I've read theories that this will probably just burst your bubble, but then again, a lot of what happened in the end with nuts and bolts, as the Xbox ports have proved, it was really nothing that special. It was kind of just quite minor things, and it was basically more or less what we got, just minus the connectivity.
Well, yeah, and that's an extension of what happened in Tooie as well, wasn't it? I mean, we got the dragon spell, which, I mean, yeah, it's neat, but
it would have just been exactly what we got. You just would have needed both games to access it rather than breaking open the cartridges. Yeah.
And ultimately, I think we need to realize that, and I know, sorry, Mechi, we are talking about Stop and Swap. I think we all need to realize and come to terms with Stop and Swap is always going to be a disappointment, whether it worked or not.
Well, the point I was kind of trying to come to was that Banjo-Tooie is, from what I've heard, quite a lot of it is stuff that was cut out of Banjo-Kazooie, like Glitter Gulch Mines. The reason there are cowboy hats everywhere is because they were meant to look like Bottles molehills, so we'd think it was a molehill, and then yeehaw, they would pop up and try and attack you, and that's why they're there. And anyway, I reckon Mount Fire Eyes was in fact the fire half of Hailfire Peaks.
Yeah, but like the way they would have conceived it for Banjo-Kazooie would have been quite different from the way it landed in Tooie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I would like to see the Banjo-Kazooie version. I'm not knocking Tooie. I'm just saying like there's a certain aesthetic and vibe to Kazooie that Tooie kind of departed from.
Tooie was definitely more concerned with realism. And
Yes.
it's
Realism?
strange to say it's strange to say that about a game that's populated entirely by talking animals and mythical creatures.
But you're exactly right, Chad, and that's the intangible I was trying to bring to mind.
Yeah, I mean, Banjo-Kazooie is a fractured fairy tale, whereas Banjo-Tooie is a world populated by living beings.
Yeah.
But it's a world
way
that
more fleshed out.
logistically is laid out in a way that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not jumping through magic portals.
Everything is interconnected. All the characters in some way relate to one another, and you have to basically make sense of this larger interactive world that encompasses the entire game. It's less. It has less of the artificial trappings of video games.
Right.
Which was to its credit. I mean, you're making a 3D world. Why partition everything off? Why do that?
I think the way Tooie did it is absolutely fantastic, and there's no better 3D world I've had fun more. There's no better 3D world that I feel so connected. And so I suppose like they almost had it in Mario Sunshine, where they had a layout for the island, so if you looked in a certain direction you'd be able to see the other levels, so everything was like internally consistent in terms of layout, but they never let you just run from one level to another and then solve a puzzle that way.
Yeah, and there was never really much cross-pollination between like the characters' problems, whereas like in Banjo-Tooie you would have to deliver salty fries and Big Al's cheeseburgers to cavemen. Like all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah. So anyway, I would like to see the original Banjo-Kazooie versions of that Tooie content, I guess you could say, or Donkey 64 content.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm wondering what would really be that. Well, I guess there'd be more platforming, because both Tooie and 64 are more lacking in the platforming department, while Banjo-Kazooie's got way more of jumping across pits and platforms.
Well, we do know at one point there was going to be a crossover between Donkey Kong 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. It might have been via the stop and swap protocol, but there was an early screenshot of DK's hut that had a refrigerator, what looked like a refrigerator, that had Banjo and Kazooie's faces on it.
Yeah.
And on the menu, hackers uncovered the ice key. There was an ice key option.
Right.
So
it would have been so great if they could have done this, the rare multiverse, and then you could have done it in Conker's Bad Fur Day as well.
Yeah.
I don't think Nintendo would have allowed any connection with Conker's Bad Fur Day at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That would have been a Nintendo thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so and Mamechi also says he bought Donkey Konga 2.
Mm-hmm.
Mamechi, I hope you realize that the issue I'm having with Donkey Konga 2 isn't that nobody's ever beaten it, and that we need to fulfill this task for me to proceed. It's that I have never beaten it.
It's specifically related to substandard gamer Hyle Russell's. No, I say that facetiously. You're a very good gamer. Donkey Konga 2 is just an impossible fucking game.
Yeah,
I'm a good gamer.
Designed to make you think, I'd never have given this game a chance if not for the slush fund. Maybe I should try it. That's kind of the opposite.
For new listeners, can you describe why Mamechi is even bringing up Donkey Konga 2?
Yeah, well, despite the fact that we spent the first 15 minutes talking about the bongo games. Okay. So Donkey Konga 2 is the most recent entry in a series on the DK Vine forums called the Slush Fund. It's FUN''D. It's a really clever pun.
I think actually that was one of my puns back
No?
in... No? Did you come up with Slush Fund?
I did.
Really? Because I thought I gave that to you.
No, you didn't.
I think I did.
Chad, I think your memory this week is terribly faulty.
Okay.
I even said like I could name it something like the Slush Fund, but that's just terrible. And then 15 minutes later, I named it the Slush Fund.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so basically, it's me playing all of the games that I kind of just glossed over during the period where I fell out of playing video games.
When Hyle and I were busy making career stalling, Emmy winning college television programs.
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
No, you can win an Emmy and still never have a career in television.
or stall your career because you won an Emmy for this ridiculous piece of. I don't even know. I'm not even gonna call it avant-garde. It was not avant-garde. It was stoner humor that we tried to make sophisticated.
No, it was sophisticated humor that stoners could appreciate.
It was stupid humor done in a sophisticated way.
Yeah, that'll work.
That's how I try. That's how I try to justify my creative output as well. My cartoons. It's teenager humor that we're kind of making cleverer than when we were teenagers. Now we're grown-ups, or maybe it's still just a bunch of immature rubbish.
Yeah.
So anyway, when Donkey Kong Country Returns brought me back into gaming, and brought me back to DK Vine, I was just like, you know what? I need to go back and I need to play the games that I missed. And the game that broke me initially, where I started getting out of video games, was Mario Kart Double Dash. Mm-hmm. So that was the first game that I tangled with, and I think that's a lot of people's favorite slush fund because of how much that game nearly broke me. Because with Mario Kart, I have to play as a Kong, and so because it was Double Dash, I had to play with Donkey and Diddy and nobody else. That team.
Had to.
because obviously Mario Kart Double Dash is not so much a kart racing game as the chronicle of Donkey Kong and Diddy going through the Mushroom Kingdom on a double wide cart.
It's the Easy Rider of our generation.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Hyle uses the phrase "had to." I had to quite a lot, in situations where he didn't have to. In the same way that Matt says it would be funny when it wouldn't be.
Yeah, and the Easy Rider analogy also explains Mario Kart Double Dash's extended scene of Dennis Hopper smoking weed and having an impromptu conversation with Donkey and Diddy.
Well, you obviously, because he played King Koopa.
Right. So I'm getting at.
Yeah. Anyway, so the thing with Double Dash was that unlike current Mario Kart, the characters weren't just really skins. The characters actually affected the stats. And so the Kongs... And you got an exclusive item with a certain characters, so the Kongs would get a giant banana, which was useless. Whereas the baby characters got this the giant chain chop that pulls you across the track and is actually worth
something. The bullet bill these days.
Yeah.
Oh, or maybe it's a bullet.
No. It's now a bullet bill, but the same concept with a chain chop.
Yeah. So
I do kind of miss the idea of having the characters basically having the Mario Kart equivalent of final smashes, basically.
Yeah, that is a cool idea.
Yeah.
If they were balanced, it would be a cool idea.
And they weren't balanced.
And they weren't all just either turtles, princesses, or babies, or baby turtle princesses. Then
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I famously toyed with this, and people were like, Hyle, you can't beat the game with the Kongs. You have to you can use Diddy, but pair him with Paratrooper or something. You're killing yourself there. But I proved them wrong. I beat the game with the Kongs.
Yeah.
Probably the only person in the world to have ever done that.
Not even the Mario Kart Double Dash quality assurance team has ever pulled this off.
So it was a glorious day, and that really kicked off the slush fund. And I was on a roll, man. I was knocking off these games left and right. Mario versus Donkey Kong, piece of shit, but I did it. Donkey Kong Country Barrel Maze,
yeah.
I beat Donkey Kong Country Barrel Maze.
Wonderful game,
Joe.
Matt.
I did it.
Yeah, that's quite hard. That one, I gave up on that quite quickly.
That was really hard.
It's basically Marble Madness.
Yeah. The isometric
but without the polish of Marble.
Right.
So. Anyway,
at least maybe Super Monkey Ball is what Donkey Kong's whatever the fuck it's called. Sorry, I've just forgotten what it's called. Barrel Maze.
Maze.
Yeah. What? Maybe Super Monkey Ball should have just been with the cast of Donkey Kong Country instead.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's never been a crossover between the two.
It would have been about the same, although Donkey Kong Country or the Donkey Kong series has never quite had the explicit product placement issues that Super Monkey Ball has had.
Right. So anyway, I beat the first Donkey Konga in a week. It was just I cruised through it. Donkey Konga 2 is a festering piece of shit, however. It's much harder, it's much more unfair, and it has a 2-player mode where you can play as 1 player, but when you do that, Dixie is the CPU character who drums with you, but her points don't count. It's like, whose line is it anyway? Her points don't count. And basically,
that's a reference that both Joe and me can understand.
Yeah,
but when you're picturing a chat, you're picturing it with Drew Carey and Wayne Brady.
That's right.
I'm pitching it with Clive Anderson and Tony Slattery.
Those aren't real people.
The original, I think the original UK version was better.
Yeah, probably. I don't care.
Oh, probably was, but it gave us Wayne Brady. The American version
American one's
Wayne
great
Brady,
too.
So.
Well, yeah, and it gave rise to the comedy stylings of Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery.
Plus,
so.
I think
they were in the UK
version
Ryan
as well.
Stiles.
That's right, DKU character Ryan Stiles.
He's a friend of Conquer the Squirrel.
Yeah.
I think the US cast were a bit less addicted to cocaine anyway, so fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like Colin made a mockery of that show.
Oh, Jesus.
There you go. So, anyway, so basically, you have to drum perfectly, and it's already like poor hit detection in this game. Like, you can hit it dead on, and it'd be like okay, instead of a great. You have to get like mostly greats. Maybe get like 10 okays.
I don't know, Hyle. Sounds to me like you're just not good enough.
Yeah, well, actually, Sir Chasm challenged me on this on the forum. A famous DK Vine poster and conversation critic, Sir Chasm. He challenged me on this. And,
it stinks.
He said,
it stinks.
Yeah.
It stinks. Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Chasm.
Mr. Mud. Everything stinks.
He challenged me and he said, I beat this as a kid. And I was just like, oh my God, I feel pathetic. But then I asked him, did you beat the 2-player mode by yourself? And he said, no, I'm not a masochist. So
this has been the Forum Watch with Scraps and Saf.
Innuendo.
Back. Continuing.
Anyway, basically, I'm stuck in this quagmire. I've got 10 more songs to beat.
And it's been about 2 years at this point of Hyle trying to beat this goddamn game.
God.
3 years. 3 years.
3 years of Donkey Konga 2. 3 years, people.
It'll be 3 years.
That violates the Geneva Convention, sentencing someone to 3 years of Donkey Konga 2.
We said Abu Ghraib was unkind. Donkey Konga 2, what it's doing to you, how it's eroding the fabric of your being.
Like I said, you've probably
To be fair, I should be playing it nude with a hood over my head and electrodes to my nipples. That's probably hindering my performance.
That might be the key.
I was saying, I was trying to persuade you to give it up on the grounds that you've probably seen all the graphics, read all the text. There's literally no content left in the game that you haven't witnessed.
There are Dixie notes you unlock. Basically, Dixie gives you like pages from her journal, and they actually like have built some continuity and canon and fanon.
Imagine if you were the first person to unlock all this content, and it said stuff like Retro Studios have purchased the rights, are now working on a Donkey Kong Country game. It's coming out in the year 2010.
You know,
all that
Hyle,
time.
Eventually, I mean, I know this is a goal that you've set for yourself, but eventually all particles in the known universe are going to be so distant from each other that existence as a concept might as not even be a thing. So
chop chop.
Your memory card probably will cease to be relevant. I know you're going for that save file, but I'm just saying.
I know. I've got to do it though. It's a personal goal.
And I'm talking about the cold death of the universe. I'm assuming that once humanity reaches out to the stars, that you or one of your ancestors will take your memory card off of Earth before the sun consumes it in its inevitable supernova.
I'm gonna have that written in my will.
Oh, okay, good.
So anyway, that's the slush fund. We actually did an episode. It was the first episode you had to sit out, Chad. I did a slush fund episode of Donkey Kong 2 with Matt in our first season. It's episode 7.
How could I have missed that?
Yeah, because I don't know, you were like sick that week or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway,
Sick of talking about Donkey Konga 2.
yeah, we just did it anyway. So Mamechi, I appreciate the initiative, and you just bought the game. You just I feel bad for you because now you're going to be going through the same turmoil and strife that I am. I don't want to inflict this upon anybody. I am not to be emulated here. So, Mamechi, best of luck. And hey, man, if you can pull this off, if you can pull off 2-player gorilla mode, which sounds like some sort of heinous sex act,
I was
but
gonna say.
if you can pull it off, you got to give me advice, and then maybe we've got to like team up and beat it together because this is ridiculous.
No. That would be easy if only Nintendo had no idea what online gaming is.
That's true. Well, this was the GameCube era.
Yeah,
too, but-
yeah. There was online gaming in the GameCube era.
As I pointed out earlier, their idea for the best, most efficient way of creating a chat system with a GameCube controller would be to release a GameCube controller with a fucking monstrous, almost full-size keyboard, shoved it stuck in the middle of the controller.
Even the Xbox version of that was like teeny tiny cell phone sized buttons.
Yeah, just strapped between the prongs. And I used to have a phone with like a pull-out keyboard, and it's so easy to type on with a little thing. So the idea that you'd have to hold this giant stretched controller in your lap.
No, I remember
It's
this.
just
This was
funny.
it was released alongside the GameCube version of Phantasy Star Online,
see.
which was a Dreamcast hit.
I just want,
did this actually make it out in the West?
Yeah, I don't know about the West, but
It sounds like a peripheral that would have died on Japanese shelves.
it was
like so many.
certainly released in Japan.
I just want to know, will it work with the Smash Brothers adapter? I'm curious.
Yeah.
It's an official Nintendo thing, right? So it must do. But
I'm a really good typist. Maybe that would actually put me on par with Scarf Boy and Smash.
Well, I was
Bros.
gonna say,
you
there-
can type out your commands. Yeah, touch type.
Yeah, if you type out Scarf Boy, it actually nerfs Diddy. So
Makes Ridley playable. Just removes Diddy entirely.
yeah.
The only reason Scarf Boy's so good is he's always so hopped up on those jelly babies.
All right. Thanks,
And then
thanks for the call,
he-
Mamechi.
And then he evolves into Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, Jesus. One more call.
Hey, Professor Slush. It's me, Brian, air quotes, the master of the Nintendo DS, air quotes, the master DS, air quotes, Doyle. Anyway,
All right. Well, that was a thing. So what's the episode about?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, guys, it's been a very newsworthy week. So first, let's talk about Brian Williams' 6-month hiatus from NBC Nightly News. And then we'll
6
discuss-
months? I thought it was only a week.
No, it's 6 months.
Oh, my.
Yeah, he was a dirty liar.
Who will deliver our news?
He was a dirty liar, just like Sir Kasten telling me he beat Donkey Konga 2.
Filthy, dirty liar.
And then we'll talk about Jon Stewart stepping down from The Daily Show, which actually hit me a lot harder than I thought it would, because I've been saying for years, Stewart's lost it. He's lost the fire in his belly. But now that Colbert's gone, I'm just like, no, Daddy, don't leave me.
Yeah, Mommy already left. She's going to replace Letterman. Just like your real mother.
Anyway.
Still have no idea
no.
who these hosts are.
Yeah. Well, at least we haven't opened up the Jimmy Fallon references in this episode.
At least,
That's true.
At least I recognise who Jane Lynch was that one time. You mentioned Jane Lynch.
Oh, yeah. Well, she's not a late night personality.
Well, we Americans really have a history with lynching. So, she's one of our most prized celebrities.
I think lynching is what lesbians do when they can't really get wet enough, so they close their eyes and think of Jane Lynch, and that gets them in the mood.
Oh, Jesus, Joe. Joe is a gay man, by the way. This is not a slight on the homosexual community.
Should clarify.
Because he's a
It's
gay
okay.
Just no. I think only a lesbian can make that joke, Chad.
Oh, okay.
Like, you need to bring us lesbians.
Joe's a very hate-filled gay man.
Yeah, but aren't they all, though? We're so bitchy.
To be fair, Joe, everybody on this show is hate-filled.
Oh, yes.
So,
If you haven't
Yeah.
gathered that
Hands
yet,
across the water.
Yes.
Hands across the water, heads above the Kinsey scale. So anyway,
It's fluid.
we've got it's been a big news week for fans of Rare and the Donkey Kong universe, because a bunch of ex-Rare staffers have banded together and formed a new studio, which we knew about. We knew about the studio, but they kind of went live.
Yeah,
this
well,
week.
I mean, in 2012, the Twitter account Mingy Jungo was teasing a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie that ultimately went nowhere. But from those ashes, they birthed the company Playtonic, and now an actual spiritual successor that they're, confident enough in that they've launched a whole website and done a whole feature in Edge magazine.
It's funny though, because I thought the company name was Mingy Junko, and I was just like, that's got to take balls to just completely violate Microsoft's copyright like that.
It's meant to be Mingy Jongo. Much
Well,
like
I know
Mingella and the Minjos. Minge is a UK slang term for vagina.
Right. I got that, but I always thought that, I don't know, for some reason, Mingy, maybe it was Mingy. But
Mingy, it's got to be Mingy.
Mingy
But that's a
Jungo.
lot of Minge references in Banjo-Tooie.
Yeah.
Wow, you say that almost as if these developers are obsessed with innuendo.
With Minge. Banjo-Tooie was developed by a bunch of lesbians who put all the word... They were subconsciously lynching when they put the word minge into the game so many times.
Or just heterosexual men who have to spend all day in a barn together.
Yeah.
And they become fixated.
In my experience, that leads to something else happening.
Right. That's why they kept making minge illusions, because they were overcompensating for what happened in those barns.
And that barn went on to be known as the X-Boy Dungeon.
They actually depicted it though in Pterodactyl Land.
That's true. Yeah. If you go way above the terrain and look back down at Mumbo's hut, you'll see exactly what they were getting up to in that barn.
They constantly had a wet floor sign in that barn.
So we say that not to besmirch the good people at Playtonic.
No.
But we're very, very excited that they've not only launched their studio and announced this, but that it hews so close to that classic Rare bone.
Well, here's the news we have for this game, which is codenamed Project Ukulele, which obviously they're going for a musical instrument thing.
Everybody gonna dance tonight. Everybody gonna see the light.
It's got a nicer ring to it than
made
like
it-
Project Theremin or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have made it like a Tiny Tim reference or something more closely associated with the ukulele, like or any sort of Hawaiian artist. But no, you went with Paul McCartney's Dance Tonight,
Right.
from his 2007 album Memory Almost Full. So
Headline,
bravo.
Beatles reference made on Kongversation.
Anyway, so Project Ukulele, Edge magazine, and actually the street date for this Edge magazine is February 12th, so we're past it. Like, it should be out, but we haven't seen anything yet.
No, the actually scans were released today, Thursday, to the listeners 2 days ago on Reddit, and then percolated throughout the internet. So we've now seen the articles.
Okay, I haven't been in the Reddit sphere today, so I completely missed that.
I haven't read
well-
it. Oh, that's where it comes
Oh,
from.
that's where. Oh, brilliant! But no, it's the same information we knew, and it had the concept art and actually a few additional pieces of silhouetted concept art that showed off that the baddies in this game aren't just kind of monstery looking things, but there are some anthropomorphized animals. There's one that's clearly a silhouette of a rhinoceros. It looked a lot like Big Al.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
well, let's talk about this concept art, because we're kind of assuming players have already seen the initial concept art that leaked for it.
Could this
or
game
not leaked,
feature
it was,
Big Al and Salty Joe then?
not unless Microsoft is going to lawyer up.
Oh yeah, lawyer up. Oh, Microsoft always lawyered to the teeth.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, Salty Joe is what they call me in the X-Boy Dungeon.
Oh, good.
Oh, God.
You really should eat more pineapple.
So, the initial concept art, there was this like tropical. Well, first of all, they leaked a teaser image of a jungle with two kind of googly-eyed characters in the shadows.
Yeah,
you can't really make them out.
It's like there's one staring straight down the barrel of the camera, and then you know they're comedy silhouettes except for their eyeballs, basically. Yeah, you know, a la like Looney Tunes. But then the other set of eyes is seemingly over the shoulder of the primary character. So obviously, it's
almost like a character's riding another character,
evoking a Banjo-Kazooie thing. But then you mentioned the jungle foliage, which I think also bears mentioning.
Yeah, I really love this image. I think it sells exactly like it really sets the point that yes, this is a Banjo-Kazooie style homage game. It just sets the tone perfectly.
Well, not just Banjo-Kazooie, Rare style. You look at those the jungle, you know, the jungle aesthetic, and it does bring to mind some of their Donkey Kong work.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, there are some palm fronds that look not like Rare's palm frond. It's strange because they look like what Retro Studios has now done with Donkey Kong's jungle plants. After
It looks like a hybrid of retro style and Rare style.
Yeah, and I guess there's only so much you can do to stylistically differentiate a palm frond. So inevitably, you know, different people were going to arrive on the same design, but it's still evocative, which is great.
Yeah, and this is like the most Rare-esque render we've had in years.
Yeah.
Because I'm not including anything from Nuts and Bolts, since that game, like, the style deviated so wildly from the past Rare style.
It was, Nuts and Bolts was, I mean, I know the initial concept was that they were going to embrace the blocky polygonal, or what I've heard recently pronounced polygonal.
Polygonal. Sounds like the act of marrying several women at the same time.
I actually heard that on a Geek Critique video recently. He used the pronunciation polygonal, which
Polygonal.
I've never heard.
I would have said polygonal.
I've always known polygonal, but anyway,
I like the intentions behind that of like making the characters look all blocky, you know, in polygons. It's a good idea, but they did it so badly, and the characters are so ugly.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know,
Some people defend it though. Like it was not a universal opinion that the Nuts and Bolts versions of the characters look terrible, but it was so far away from the traditional look.
No, I think it was largely a problem in the way they marketed the game, and even, you know, we being like the core fan base, the target audience. You know, even when we saw that initial trailer where they're walking around with this blue pencil that's drawing landscapes and stuff, you know, we embraced that style. We saw it was different. We understood what they were doing. It was fine. And honestly, the character designs weren't really that bad. I mean, and I appreciate that the artists on Nuts and Bolts wanted to do something different, because what's more boring than just realizing the same 3D render style that we've always known? You know,
I think Nintendo EAD has no idea what you're talking about right now.
Right, clearly.
I would say, I think maybe Banjo suffered from it a lot worse. Banjo looks a lot worse with his eyes are just too far apart and not googly enough, and just too realistic. He's got the teeth and just doesn't look goofy or friendly or like a
Well, you know, in the game, he actually looks a lot better than he does on some of the artwork they released.
Yeah, maybe. I think Kazooie, their intentions suffered better and suffered. Kazooie fared a bit better, and I think their intentions were quite good in making her look more feminine to avoid the confusion of everyone thinking Kazooie is a guy. And I kind of liked that she looks grumpy. It suits her personality how she looks kind of like she's getting a bit old, and she's putting on a bit too much makeup to overcompensate, and she just looks like a drunken middle-aged bird.
that is a factor in the Nuts and Bolts story. Like the characters have aged in real time, and they've gotten fat at the start of the game.
And Mumbo even points out ugly bird can check bad makeup in rearview mirror, he says.
So yeah, a lot of Nuts and Bolts, like the implication is that, you know, the passage of time, aging, and, you know, being out of step in your, you know, with the current generation. Like there's a lot of self-deprecating humor there, with Rare, a lot of meta humor that they then put into Banjo's world and have them be out of step.
But I think that
relics.
What fed a lot of the fan rejection of Nuts and Bolts was that the game was poking fun at that genre, but we all knew that it was also Rare kind of towing the line of We've been
we don't know
okay,
that.
Okay. What's being inferred is that basically Rare was told the 3D platformer genre is unmarketable.
It's dead.
Therefore, you will do something different. And they had this, and Rare had this concept of a build your own car sort of mission-based game. And they said, okay, what if we put Banjo on that? And in doing that, they made a lot of very metatextual, tongue-in-cheek references to the fact that no one wants to play a 3D platformer, whereas that directive was only ever a Microsoft marketing thing and never really existed in the real world.
Well, I don't know,
Exactly,
Chad,
yeah.
because it might have existed in the real world to an extent.
In the Xbox demographic, though.
Well, yeah,
To the
but,
extent
okay, besides,
that 3D platforming died, and that Mario Galaxy just said, no, fuck off, you're not allowed to explore. Follow the path.
But here's the thing, though. I don't think 3D platforming ever died. I just think people stopped making 3D platforming games.
yeah, well, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit in column B.
Yeah,
We
a
go
lot-
through these generational shifts where, you know, all of a sudden we're rejecting everything from the past decade, and you know, oh, that's antiquated, that's a
Right.
relic. Until you hit the nostalgia era, where it suddenly it's like, oh god, they need to make another one of these again.
Yeah, like how we
And
went so long without
that's
any-
exactly what happened with 2D platforming.
It's like how we wouldn't. I don't think there were very many, if any, 2D platformers on the GameCube, whereas there are a lot on the 3DS, which is kind of the same graphical level of graphical
Yeah.
sophistication, and then that's quite
It's like-
strange.
yeah. It's like you have to get like a generation and a half away from the genre before it becomes in vogue again.
Yeah.
I mean, and this doesn't apply to just video games. It applies to everything. I mean, you know, look how much the 90s were rejected, and now everything from the 90s is coming back.
Everyone loves it.
Well,
mean,
yeah,
it's-
I mean, bell bottoms were in style in the late 90s.
Not only that, but like we love.
That's right.
We love the 90s, which was all influenced by the 70s, which is all influenced by the 50s, and then
Right.
next decade we'll all be in love with the noughties, which were influenced by the 80s, which were influenced by the 60s.
Oh, I love the naughties, especially really.
I was going to say mildly naughty is my favorite,
Mildly
but
Oh, I really don't want all the gangster culture to come back and all the.
The gangster culture.
the gangster when is being a gangster
I think-
ever been
I think-
unpopular?
I
think British-
maybe it's just because I was a teenager, but like the noughties, it seemed everyone was obsessed with things like Black Eyed Peas and 50 Cent and everything.
Oh.
So, yo, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, well yeah,
Yeah.
that's where Sacha Baron Cohen got his career.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would
Yeah,
explain it. then.
and I think it hit you guys at a slightly different time that it hit over here. Like I think like gangster culture. I think like early '90s, like Dr. Dre's, Snoop Dogg, you know, NWA, you know, where gangster rap really took hold. What are
Hyle
we
is
talking
very
about?
hardcore.
What I kind of like about this decade so far is it seems like
I was born on the streets, Chad.
That's right, the streets of suburban Virginia.
No, I was born in Pennsylvania. Thank you very
I'm
much.
sorry.
what I like about this current
Much.
decade is it's the decade of geekdom, where you're allowed to like video games, like watching cartoons, and like no,
I don't
you're
think
allowed
this
to be
is an era.
You're allowed to be intelligent this decade, and you won't get
I don't thi-
criticized for it.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's a fad. I don't think that's a fad, Joe. Though I think that really is just the cultural shifts. I think that's here to stay.
Well,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
it's that's the result of the internet.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
That's
ju-
like
not
the
ju-
one positive thing that we have for the internet driving the ubiquity of technology and basically saying that unless you have a basic understanding of how to use complex machines, you are going to be left in the dust. So
not just the internet, Chad. I think geekdom in general is different. It's different from being a nerd. You're talking about nerd.
no, I'm not. I'm not at all. I'm saying that the commoditization and the democratization of information has allowed geek culture to take hold, and
See-
that is largely driven by the internet.
Definitely, I'd have to agree.
The-
Yeah,
My theory is this all stems from, at least in the West, the abandonment of military drafts. And I think
Oh my
Okay.
god!
I think
Okay.
it's because like geek culture, there's an inherent like childlike sensibility to it where you cling to these things you would have loved as a child
Right.
and not really abandon them. And so because there's no military draft, there's less of this push towards growing up. Nobody ever really grows up anymore.
Yeah,
Hyle,
yeah.
I'd say at best that's a Freakonomics kind of thing. At worst, you're really reaching.
I am okay with the Freakonomics
Okay.
thing. The market spoke on that book, and it sold quite a bit.
All right.
Let's hope that this decade's changes are here to stay, and that again, it might have just been because I was a nerdy teenager, and it was popular to like all the whole yo gangster stuff last decade. And I hope
Joe's being really racist right now.
Yeah.
I hope it's
toward race neutral gangsters.
Yeah, well, just what all the kids liked, wearing the baggy trousers, like with the underpants showing and stuff. God, I sound like an old man.
Bill Cosby hated that.
I'll take the gangster culture over Kanye West, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's kind of a part of that, but he's like kind of a laughing stock now. Like 10 years ago, he would have been big and famous for the way he was.
Kanye's not gangsta.
Yeah, well, 10 years ago, Kanye started to become a laughing stock thanks to Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, right.
Well, I don't know. Have we ever really determined whether George Bush cares about black people?
Only Kanye and Michael Myers know for sure.
I haven't watched The Love Guru, or maybe they got to the bottom
They
of it.
might have, yeah. Unfortunately, no one else saw The Love Guru.
It's the Donkey Konga 2 of Michael Myers cinema.
Poor Vern Troyer.
Is he dead, or is he still alive?
He's probably still alive.
Okay. So anyway, so yeah, Nuts and Bolts, whatever its intentions, whatever, it was a disappointment. And I mean, it was a disappointment for the fans, and it wasn't the Banjo-Tooie we spent the better part of a decade longing for.
And I don't want to besmirch the obvious hard work and care and attention that went into making Nuts and Bolts. It was just the problem.
Nuts and Bolts isn't a failure like Donkey Konga 2 is a failure.
It's not a failure in game design and development.
No,
It's a failure in marketing.
It's a failure in marketing, and it's a failure in, again, I think Microsoft not knowing what to do with Rare and pushing them in the wrong directions when the fan base was already there. But the problem is the fan base didn't have the nostalgia of the rest of the media to back them up.
Yeah. It was just a few of us tilting at 3D platforming windmills. It was like we were basically in Willow Woods screaming at the windmill, and no one wanted to make it.
Or we were racing Smokey the Dragon.
Right.
But yeah, so Nuts and Bolts, and that it was kind of viewed as like the death of 3D platforming, which I mean, at least among Rare fans, which is not fair to Nuts and Bolts because it wasn't a 3D platformer, but it had platforming elements, but few and far between. So what we're seeing now is kind of with Playtonic, and we're going to talk about Playtonic here because how awesome is what they're doing with this.
Well, honestly, it's kind of interesting that Playtonic is only the latest in a long trend of 3D platformers.
Yes, and that's what I was going to think, because that's what I was trying to get at, because what we're seeing now is kind of the race to fill the successor role of Banjo-Tooie.
Right.
And you dubbed it World War Threeie, which I think is apt.
Yeah. I'm just really glad that they're proudly proclaiming straight away, right at the start of this relationship, they're telling us it's platonic. They're not going to string us along. They're not going to fucking break our hearts, like some other video game developers have. They're just platonic, you know what I mean?
What do you mean? Break our hearts in what way? Like saying this is rare, or what are you? What are you trying to say?
They're saying it's strictly a platonic relationship, and they're not going to lead us.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They're not going to lead us on.
That pun.
I'm really happy about that.
Honestly, yeah. Until you said that, I always thought it was a joke on plate tectonics, which isn't really a pun.
Yeah. What we need now, after so many video game developers have screwed us over and treated us like shit, finally we've got this new team have come along and they've right away said this is strictly platonic. We're just here to have fun and be your mates.
Yeah.
I completely didn't get that, and I'll tell you why. It's because their logo is like a beaker that's like has a tonic in it, and I thought I was focused on that, Playtonic, not platonic.
Well, I think that's the joke.
I know, but it works on so many levels, not like the Kongversation.
Yeah. We're not going to be. We're not going to be stuck in an arrangement that winds up being friends with Banjo Fits. So this is solid. Oh no.
So let's talk about that logo real quick, because this is the gateway to talking about Playtonic here.
Okay, well, do we want to delve into Playtonic just yet, or should we talk about what's led up to what's the history of this 3D platformer renaissance?
Okay, let's talk about the history.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what came first, Hat in Time or DK64 News. They were both around the same time, as I recall.
We're not going to talk about Super Mario Galaxy keeping the embers alight.
Well, I think that Super Mario Galaxy deserves a little bit of credit. And granted, I know that Joe already expressed his distaste for it, but I fucking love Super Mario Galaxy and its sequel.
You love the sequel because the sequel's more divisive, I find, where people find that almost too linear and too.
Well, it definitely is, and they disposed of the overworld in favor of a Super Mario Brothers 3 style kind of map, and there's a small hub that you just talk to like a character and then you go into your map. But I really appreciated what Super Mario Galaxy did, which I mean I guess it scratched that itch in an era when no other games were doing that.
Cool. Let me attempt to rejoin.
Yeah, I guess, and it's just weird that Nintendo did make its very existence is kind of odd to me today, considering that how far away from 3D platformers the industry has moved, and Nintendo is so dedicated on cranking out those 2D Mario games that there is even room for a Mario Galaxy.
I would say it was kind of the death of 3D platforming, because you couldn't really run around or explore or collect. It was just a follow the dotted line game that there's kind of more or less
you mean the sequel? The sequel more than the original, yeah?
I never played the sequel, only the original. But the original was bad
even
enough.
that. I mean, the original had the hub world and had like the Rosalina thing and all of that. Even that you thought was just sterilized.
Yeah. But it was basically just follow this line. You've got one move, a spin move, which is bloody motion controls. You haven't got a backpack full of clever moves to use, or even a bunch of jump and attack and punch. You just jump and spin and go in one direction and pick up the star, please, thanks. I found it incredibly uninspired.
I honestly, I feel like that, what you're describing, that kind of linear thing, is more the embodiment of Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Oh, right.
But the first one, it sort of had these worlds that, it dumps you in and lets you don't get to explore that much because a lot of them were just kind of floating islands in space.
Yeah.
And so they're not as big, and it's not as a cohesive environment. But I mean, there were multiple moves, especially in part 2. You had different. You had the fire flower, you had the ice flower, you had the ice skates, you can turn into a bee, you can turn into a cloud. I mean, you got all kinds of shit. And
I think the thing was they were trying to they were trying to transition back into what the 2D Marios are like, and which is a transformation that we've seen completed now with the 3D Land and 3D World games, which are basically 2D Mario with another dimension added.
I would kind of agree there, Joe. But I mean, remember, 2D Mario was coming out at the same time as the Galaxy games. Yeah. But I think Galaxy was kind of a de-evolution of 3D platforming, where they were trying to scale it back, and now we've got Super Mario 3D World, where it's just that very closed-in kind of.
It's a diorama.
Maybe it was a bit mean of me to say the death of 3D platforming, but I think perhaps them starting to. Maybe the slow euthanasia of 3D platforming.
It was the slow kind of morphing of it, maybe.
Uninstalling, the slow reversion of it back into basically, what was there before.
When we say 3D platforming, though, what you're looking for is a Banjo game. You're looking for a Banjo game, and I did not go to Super Mario Galaxy expecting a Banjo experience with a whole toolbox of moves.
But I did after playing Mario Sunshine.
Okay, well, Mario Sunshine's the same. It's the same issue as Super Mario Galaxy.
Well, not really.
Same thing.
What about Super Mario 64?
You got a whole bunch of moves in your.
Same thing. You have all the same moves that you have for Mario 64 as you had. Sunshine added a few via Flood. Mario Galaxy added a few.
Basically acted like Kazooie though. Flood was Nintendo's answer to Kazooie.
Yeah.
Not only that, but both games would Galaxy, also allow you to honestly explore and run around.
My favorite parts of Sunshine were the parts where they took FLUDD away from you and let you do some 3D Mario platforming on the
I guess it's not
those stages.
I guess it's not literally the platforming that's the problem, because that's what all Galaxy is jumping from one platform to another. But I mean, what I mean is that the ability to run around in an open world environment and explore at your own pace, discover things in your own way, and collect things, and just rather than being told, go to that planet, now do this thing on this planet.
Now, see, I had that. I felt that spirit of go do your thing, explore, take your time with Galaxy, and then to me, the game that stripped that away was Super Mario 3D World. Because that's when they introduced the fixed camera.
Yeah.
The quote unquote fixed camera that could only be maintained at a higher angle than you, and the time limit. And to me, the time limit is the true death of exploration.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's no need for a time limit. There's no in-story justification for it. No one likes it. It doesn't help the gameplay at all. It's just a bad idea.
The only time the time limit has that I've ever appreciated it was in Super Luigi U.
Yeah.
Because that was the whole point of Super Luigi U, that you only have 100 Mario seconds, which are like 50 real seconds, to get through this thing.
Are they not the same as real seconds?
No! Mario seconds pass so quickly. They're definitely not the same as real seconds.
50 of your Earth seconds.
Right. but like, yeah, I think that it's premature to say that Galaxy is the unraveling of the 3D platformer. To me, Galaxy sort of, as Hyle said, sort of kept the torch alive to a point where.
No, I said it was the embers.
The embers.
It wasn't a full-blown torch.
Okay, it at least kept the embers stoked, and then Nintendo tried to snuff it out with 3D World, but thankfully that torch had already been taken over by the indie scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, now we did have rumors because, and I guess they're still technically valid. Obviously Camelot, the president of Camelot.
Yeah, they're still technically valid in the same way that JFK could still technically have been assassinated by Lyndon Johnson. I mean, it's really moot at this point.
Oh, Chad, you're so naive. Lyndon Johnson orchestrated the hit. He didn't actually assassinate him, though.
Of course.
That's
My
right.
apologies.
All right, so, no, I mean, the president of Camelot, and I forgive me because I don't have his name on me. I don't keep it in my pocket. But
Ian Camelot.
He said that he was a big fan of Ian Camelot. There you go.
Really, Ian Camelot, believe me.
Yeah. Speaking of JFK, by the way.
Why don't they ever call it Camelot? It's for JFK. Why is it always Camelot?
Yeah, I think that's the estate of Marilyn Monroe that prevented that from happening.
Okay. So anyway, the Ian Camelot, president of Camelot, said that he's a big fan of Donkey Kong 64 and he would love to do a sequel to it. And obviously Camelot, they've always really had an affinity for Donkey Kong, even if they've only made the Mario golf and tennis games in that universe. They still give Donkey Kong a lot of love in those games.
I remember when this news broke, and we were shocked because this was probably 4 years ago-ish, and...
No, three.
And at that point...
Two and a half at most.
Okay, whatever.
Long enough
at that
for
point,
us to know that nothing's going to come of it.
Right, of course. Thank you, Joe. but it was in a time where the memories of Donkey Kong 64 were more negative than they were positive in the kind of gaming public consciousness.
But see, even nostalgia has brought that back around, where people are reminiscing fondly of Donkey Kong 64.
Right. And it's like, I think that Camelot sort of declaring that, oh, we would love to make a sequel to Donkey Kong 64 in that style.
Like he just brought it up unprovoked, though. That was the craziest thing, you know?
It's like, oh my God, we would love you to do that too, please. And then it went nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a while to make a 3D game. They could still be working on it. And that's why they cut out the RPG mode in the new Mario Golf.
Wait, are you telling me that it's difficult to create a 3D platformer from scratch?
If I said I would like to make a 10-foot tall gold statue of my cock, that doesn't mean I'm gonna be able to make it, and that certainly doesn't mean Miyamoto is gonna say yes, you can do that. You know,
Does Miyamoto have exclusive copyright on your cock?
Yeah, and it's frustrating because it used to be a vagina, but then he intruded and said, no, they should put Star Fox in this and make it a penis.
To be fair, there were a lot more penises in Star Fox than they were vaginas.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
He has a point.
Yeah. For every Peppy, Slippy, Rob, and Fox McCloud, you've got one crystal. So
Yeah. But anyway, and then of course around the time of Tropical Freeze's release, Tanabe even said, hey, who knows? Maybe we'll see Donkey Kong be like Mario and switch between both 2D and 3D games.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to see.
We took that as maybe a clue or something, a little breadcrumb for us to follow.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but
it's been no secret for a while now that Mario goes both ways, and I've got a feeling that Donkey Kong could probably go both ways too.
Well, we'll have to study the webcam footage.
that's right. She seems willing, but you never know.
That's right. Until we get an actual human being in there with her, we won't know for sure.
But so after this Camelot news, somewhere around that same time, Kickstarter really ramped up, and indie game developers realized that they could largely fund their projects via Kickstarter. And
people have been talking shit about Kickstarter, but really it is just this because I don't know, people are shit talkers. But it's
really, Hyle, people are shit talkers.
Yeah. People. It's like, Kickstarter, whatever. How dare people try to realize their dreams?
Whereas on the conversation, we never slag off anyone, do we?
That's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah.
Oh. No, we're really paragons of virtue here on the conversation. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but
I'm a paragon of virtue personally because I really like Eternal Darkness. That was an Eternal Darkness reference.
Oh. Was that a 3D platformer?
No, it was like a 3D adventure thingy, but...
Then why are you bringing it up?
Because Paragon was one of the spells in the... Fuck you. All right, whatever.
You could have said it was a Pokemon from Generation 7. And I would have believed you if you would have said that was the de-evolution of
I never go for
Porygon.
The easy reference. You should know that about me by now.
Oh, I know. I've been writing a video game with you.
Well, we should probably discuss that video game after we talk about Kickstarter.
Ooh.
That's right.
Yes.
So anyway,
Kickstarter sucks. Anyway, Lobodestroyo.
No.
Hat in
Before
Time.
Lobo, though. Yeah. So Kickstarter has really been a boon for new ideas or ideas that wouldn't have seen the light of day in this era of big budget Hollywood blockbuster video games.
It's fantastic, isn't it? That all it takes is a good idea, people fund it, and so many ideas get off the ground now that it's brilliant. I think we're living in such a great time where we can see so many ideas come to pass that would usually would just die, along with presumably the person who would eventually just die. We'd never know what cool things they could have come up with.
The ideas would just die on the vine, which actually, hey, that would be a good slogan for our website.
Die on the vine.
DK Vine, where ideas die on the
On
vine.
the vine. No,
So,
that's actually
such as the
perfect.
Vine audio program, which has died.
It has not died.
Alistair's keeping it alive.
That's
at
right.
some
He is the
point.
Mario Galaxy of that show.
Yes, the embers are alive with Alistair Craig.
Yeah.
But the some of the downsides, of course, to Kickstarter is that you get hit with a lot of taxes when you get your lump sum, and then Kickstarter also takes about 10%, and then once the campaign is finished, all the people whose payments are unable to be processed are reduced from your total, and if you're right on the line, then that can of course threaten the success of the Kickstarter. So I mean, there are some pitfalls, but
And then there's that added pressure of all these people gave you money, now deliver in a big
Oh,
way.
yeah.
right. Well, there's also that exact thing, which I think not only Hat in Time, but I think our good friend Jamie Guy would be the first to admit, making promises in a Kickstarter, especially as it pertains to timelines, can be very risky.
We're still waiting for the second half of Broken Age, which was promised at the end of last year. And
that's a professional game studio.
Yeah, exactly. That's bloody Double Fine. You should expect better, I don't know, commitment from them.
Yeah.
Well, it's not commitment so much as sometimes logistical things come up and unforeseen problems.
Right. So, all I'm saying is like if Tim Schafer can't, make this work in the...
Then maybe Paul Schafer can.
Hey, newspapers! That's it. I had a Jimmy Fallon impression all chambered up, but we didn't even get there, so that's okay.
That's right. There's still time, Chad.
Neither of you have done Letterman yet. Did you hear this, Kevin? Did you hear this? Was it Kevin? I don't know what the fuck his catchphrase is.
He didn't even have the right show.
It's not Letterman. Who is it? Oh, I can't.
Jay Leno. It's Jay Leno.
Jay Leno. Oh, I knew that. Oh, I said the name wrong.
Letterman's kind of like, Did you hear? Yeah, well, that's okay. What do you think, Paul? You ever see this? You ever see this kind of thing, Paul?
I suppose to do kind of a British equivalent. We've kind of got Russell Howard who goes, "You'll never guess what I've seen in the news this week." Then shows a clip and then pulls a face.
That's already about 20 times more enthusiastic as David Letterman is about anything.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. David Letterman's retiring later this year, but he's technically been retired for the last 15 years.
Yeah, he's been coasting on name recognition alone for well over a decade.
Right. So anyway, you tease your Jimmy Fallon and then you do a Letterman. It's really discouraging.
Sorry, Hyle. I think that my Jimmy Fallon is not quite as amazing enough to debut on this episode. What I think I want to do is wait until I get Neil Young on my show, and then maybe I'll do old man. Only I'll be young Neil Young, and he'll be old Neil Young, and we'll sing a duet. And I guess if you think about it, I'll be Neil Young, and he'll be Neil Old, and we'll sing old man. Only it'll be old young man. That'd be great. It'd be amazing. It'd be totally awesome.
I tell you what, I can't wait until Clara Oswald guest stars on his show.
Oh my god, I would love to appear on Jimmy Fallon's show.
You do it funny.
It'd be great. And then we can have you on the show. You can talk to me what it's like interacting with Matt Smith. I think it's great. I think it's amazing when you have BBC shows. Come on. Oh, you like that a lot, do you? I love it. I think it's amazing. It's totally amazing. It's totally awesome.
Well, Jimmy. Are you ever going to install a lift? Honestly, I've walked up those stairs and I'm absolutely exhausted. I just can't sit down. When are you going to get some chairs in here? I'm exhausted.
I'm so sorry, Claire Oswald. I know that's not your real name, but I just, in the green room, we like to be eco-friendly, so we don't put chairs in there. I'm really sorry you had to walk up all the stairs at 30 Rock.
I'm going to go get some coffee or something. Let me know when you guys are done, all right?
Hey, Clara, I think we're running out of oxygen in the studio because we seem to be consuming it at a rapid pace. It's totally awesome. It's really exciting. I'm so excited.
Well, that's probably because of all the aliens that are absorbing all the oxygen. It can't just be me. I can't just breathe in once in a while. I think I'm having a heart attack.
That's all right. I'm having a heart attack too. I have a heart attack constantly. It's so exciting.
Marvelous.
All right. Hey, Hyle, you still there?
Hey, Chad.
That's my Jimmy Fallon and my Clara Oswald and Joe's Clara Oswald.
Yeah. That was...
Just have to impersonate all of the Doctor Who's and all the companions in one episode. Matt Corner should join in for that one, I think.
Okay. Well, that was a thing that happened. And now back to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So, what's great about Kickstarter and what really... Besides the rumors and the hearsay, what really started replanting the idea of 3D platformers into people's fertile mind gardens was when the fans, they said, you know what, these companies aren't going to make, these developers aren't going to make the games we want to play. We're going to make them ourselves, and we're going to see if there's any interest. And yeah, there's enough interest to have these games funded, so there you go. And Hat in Time was really the first one to make waves. Would you say the first big one, or at least?
Joe?
So I think the Hat in Time is probably the one that's more famous throughout the internet, although Lobodestroyo is quite famous in its own right as well.
In circles. But I think, Hat in Time certainly capitalized on it first, and thus
Hat in Time came first, or was announced first.
Right. Well,
so.
and Hat in Time also, in its campaign, one of the stretch goals was to bring Grant Kirkhope into the fold to do some music for the game, which I think got it a lot of notoriety.
Especially in our circles.
Yes. And so it was great to see like a 3D platformer, say what you will of the art style, which is largely inspired by Wind Waker, but the fact that Grant Kirkhope was going to be doing some of the music sort of gave it the blessing that a lot of us needed. And
that's the thing about Hat in Time, which I think we've referenced in one of our Lobo episodes, or episodes where we talked about Lobo a bit, where Hat in Time is kind of much more inspired by Nintendo than it is by Rare. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a Nintendo inspired game, and Lobodestroyo is inspired, I mean, even in the Kickstarter campaign, by the 3D platformers of Rare.
Yeah, I mean, that was really what Lobo kind of billed itself as. Hey, do you like Banjo-Kazooie? So do we. Wouldn't it be great to play a game like that again?
Yeah.
We agree.
Yeah, and, Lobo, like, that was kind of, even in the trailer, said, the best game you've played since your Nintendo 64 went to that great game console shop in the sky, or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was Antonio Banderas. That was pretty much where all of the Kickstarter money went, was getting him to do that that voice.
Yeah, now it's just going to be Antonio Banderas, reciting the dialogue that we're helping to write.
No, Joe, it was not Antonio Banderas.
I was going to say.
But the fact that you said seriously speaks to the career trajectory of Antonio Banderas.
I wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have been surprised after, I don't know, bloody Spy Kids.
Spy Kids like 4? Yeah, whatever the fuck they do in Robert Rodriguez's green Austin warehouse.
Now, we can't really discuss Lobodestroyo too much anymore because Chad and I have kind of been brought on. I don't want to say we were brought on the team because that implies we have a greater involvement than we do.
No, I think that's valid. We are part of the Lobo team now. I mean, we're not officially christened Left-Handed Game Studio people, but I mean, no one on the project is making money. Pretty much all of the costs are going to either hardware or software licenses or the licensure that's required to get the games onto various systems. Like,
it's a passion project.
Yeah,
it's a passion project.
No one is getting paid for this game, including me and Hyle. So we're basically on the same tier as everyone else, I would say, at this point.
Well, no. I mean, we're the story. I mean, when I say we're doing writing for it, we're shaping dialogue. We're not. The story is already in place. We're just trying to give it a voice.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so the Hyle and my involvement is basically,
and we've got to tread lightly here, Chad. So,
I'm not going to get into specifics, but basically, Jamie Guy, the creative director of the project, and his team at Left-Handed had
who we essentially met on this show. We invited them to appear on the Kongversation.
Yeah.
And we first talked to them while being on the Kongversation.
Right. And they had basically the large overarching story of the game in place, and they had some specific worlds that they wanted, and then within those worlds, some of them they had very regimented, fleshed out missions, a la Banjo. Whereas in Banjo it's jiggies, in Lobodestroyo you collect the toll tokens. So what Hyle and I are now doing is giving words to those higher level scenarios. So we are kind of writing all of the character dialogue and interactions, and in some cases really giving voice to characters that didn't have characterization. So
well, I mean, it's, especially with NPC characters.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's but by their very nature, they're just kind of mindless mission givers.
I don't want to overstate what we're doing with the game, but maybe I'm understating.
No, I think you're understating it by way of humility, but I think that if you enjoy the sense of humor that Hyle and I have, and you just wish...
Don't worry, we're bringing something completely different to Lobodestroyo.
If you appreciate that, and you just wish we would tone it the fuck down, then you'll like Lobodestroyo.
Oh, gosh. Can you imagine?
It's actually us writing... It's us writing with parameters, so it's a good thing.
Basically, listeners,
that's what
imagine if in Banjo-Kazooie you were playing Gobi's Valley for the first time. You went up to Trunker,
Right.
the trunk of the tree, and he said, "Help me, friendly bear and bird. I'm parched. I need some water." And Banjo said to Kazooie, "Hey, Kazooie, did you ever see The Late Show last night?" "Yeah, I did. Then I listened to my Paul McCartney album." At which point,
Hey,
Trunker
Kazooie,
then
I'm sure glad this isn't like that episode of the X-Files where they go to Florida and there's that water monster going through the ceiling. You know, I would hate for that to come out of this tree begging for water.
Hey, he looks like one of the trees from the island on Lost.
No, why are you talking about Lost? I was going to talk about that X-Files episode. I really hated that because it came right after they burned the Syndicate, an important part of the mythology. It seemed really underwhelming, and it kind of foretold that the show had already peaked and was on a downward cycle.
Much like the rest of this game that we're still totally in universe with. We're toning it way down, but we are basically putting words into all of the characters' mouths on a very granular level
until we get fired.
Until Jamie says, "Okay, that's enough." Yeah. But so far, he's happy with what we're doing. So anyway,
Jamie's a great guy. Jamie, Tom, and they're fantastic people, and they're great to even give us this opportunity to help out in the slightest bit. But
we are helping out in a little bit more than the slightest bit, which is an opportunity I never thought we would have.
Well, no, because I just thought we would be helping, like, maybe craft like one or two characters dialogue. I didn't realize we would be incorporated as much as we are. So it's great.
Yeah, we're right. Pretty much all of the the text line, the dialogue that you would see between characters. If we continue on the current trajectory, all of those lines will have passed by Hyle and my hands. So we're
that's not saying like Jamie's not adding things or editing us. He there is editorial oversight.
There's a lot of it. Yeah.
So it's fun because a lot of times we'll say, "Is this too much?"
Yeah. We're like using Google Docs, so like we'll write something, and then when we realize we've crossed a line, we'll put a comment and write an alternate line. so when Jamie goes through, he can say, "Yeah, I don't know about that." We could say, we predicted you would say that.
I suppose, is there going to be any innuendo?
The tone that we're trying to toe, and
we're actually, so far we're being good boys, but I think that, like Chad was saying before I cut him off, the tone we're trying to evoke is probably Banjo-Kazooie.
Exactly. Excellent. We're all aiming for an E rating with the game. Or whatever Peggy wants to call it, but
hey, Peggy can mind her own fucking business.
Yeah, I think pegging is a dirty term, so I don't know that we want to have that in Lobodestroyo.
I don't think you're going to get any rating.
But we want it to be the kind of game where children can enjoy and laugh at it, but then they can revisit the game at a later stage in their life and still enjoy it on a different level.
Yeah, just like
a Pixar movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we also don't want it to be a carbon copy of Banjo-Kazooie, so that's also we're trying to make it have its own voice.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the key differences, and I don't think Jamie would begrudge us giving this away, is that whereas a lot of Rare games, and especially the Banjo series, all the characters were aware that they're in a video game. The Lobodestroyo world is internally closed.
Oh yeah.
So
I think that can work better, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like we never really break the fourth wall. There's no acknowledgement that the characters are inside a video game, but we can still poke fun at some of the tropes.
And some of the coming up with in-universe justifications for the video game mechanics.
Right.
Yeah. It's so much better to do it that way. Like, say, what all the old Monkey Island games did was constantly break the fourth wall and constantly have Guybrush turn to the camera and say, "This is a bit rubbish, isn't it?" And what they did in Tales of Monkey Island, which divides opinion, but I really like it, is that they removed that and kind of darkened the tone of the game a bit. And that they never break the fourth wall in it, but they still kind of make kind of jokes pointing out, why is this happening? Why should that be happening? But kind of like in a way that the characters, they don't know that they're in a video game, but they can still notice strange things happening, and they can still point out something odd. I can't really describe it, but it's like rather than saying, I guess the programmers couldn't come up with a better way for me to open that door, they'll say, wow, I can't believe I had to go through all that trouble just to open one stupid door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it works so much better that way.
Yeah, and it keeps you in the experience a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's also it doesn't fall into that trap of you trying to make a joke instead of overcoming a shortcoming.
Yeah. Oh, here's a great example. Cranky in Donkey Kong Country versus Cranky in Donkey Kong Country Returns.
In what way?
In Country, he's constantly breaking the fourth wall, saying, oh, this is a rubbish game. People only like it because it's got good graphics. Rah, rah, rah. And then in Returns, he's just saying things like, what does the factory make anyway? Who is that pig guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
That's
still
a good point.
It's the same kind of humor, but it preserves the reality of the work that he's in.
He has a line about apes breaking the laws of physics.
That's in the manual.
Their jumps.
Oh no, it's not. No, sorry, that is in the game, isn't it?
That is in the game. Yeah.
He's just being sarcastic. Like,
well, no, but it's still internally consistent because he's not saying that. Hey, you're hitting the A button to jump way higher than you should. He's
saying it in a way that's saying, God, that guy uses so much hairspray, his hair breaks the laws of physics. It's like the physical reality that we fictional apes are all within should not allow for you to jump that high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I think we would be whipped by Jamie if we didn't mention that Grant Kirkhope also composed a track for Lobodestroyo.
Right, and that's something that's actually pretty cool the way they're doing it. He put a backer update out about this, right? Can we talk about this?
It's out. It broke last summer.
Grant's doing everything these days, isn't he? Everyone wants Grant Kirkhope. It's awesome. I think his publicity through things like, was it JonTron and Game Grumps that really kind of brought him into the public eye? And I think since then...
You would probably know better than me. I don't really keep myself abreast of YouTubery.
I
don't think Joe keeps himself abreast either.
I keep myself abreast in a jar. I just, sort of squeeze it. So I know it reminds me what they feel like. Otherwise I wouldn't really get the chance.
That takes care of your heterosexuality.
Yeah. Well, when I get those straight urges, it's like a stress ball.
Breast in a jar. Anyway,
it's why I keep a flesh boy on hand.
I hope that's not a real thing, but now I want to Google it and find out.
Yeah, it's the gay version of the fleshlight where it's basically a tallywhacker.
Okay. So a dildo then.
Well, wait, no. It's the receiving end.
Oh, I see. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Grant Kirkhope, his sound has sort of become the shorthand that people use to think of 3D platformers. And I think that honestly, I don't think that's so much Grant's doing as it is.
Excuse me. Correction. It's a flesh jack.
Flesh jack. It's not really so much Grant's doing as it is people. I'm glad that we're having these parallel conversations. I'm sure Grant Kirkhope would really appreciate this.
Flesh jack.
Isn't the jack, like say when you say a headphone jack, isn't that the bit that sticks in? So shouldn't it be a flesh socket rather than the flesh jack?
Yeah, it should be a flesh socket.
Yeah.
It should. Wrong. Hyle, can you write a strongly worded letter to the people at Flesh Jack?
Already on it.
So speaking of Grant Kirkhope, he never really asked for this, but the Hat in Time people and then Lobodestroyo reached out to him independently to ask him to, lend his musical voice to these genres. And
meanwhile, David Wise said, "Well, screw this. I'll just go work for Nintendo.
Yeah, I'm just going to do the 2D platforming thing that I am the perfect fit for."
Yeah,
and he knocked it out of the park. But now Grant, as I don't know that it's been confirmed, but he's certainly been very supportive of the Playtonic project. So
yes, he's alluded to stuff in Twitter.
I would be really surprised if Grant does not become the 7th former Rare employee to be a part of the Playtonic team.
Yeah, or at least do music.
That's what I mean,
them.
like as a contractor. Yeah.
And we should also mention that Gooseworks is doing the most of the music for Lobodestroyo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because what Grant did, they were able to hire him as part of a Kickstarter stretch goal to compose one song for the game. But the main composer of Lobodestroyo, Gooseworks, who's fucking phenomenal, he's taking Grant's song, which is a boss theme, and sort of tweaking it a la the bosses of DK64 and Banjo-Tooie to use different instrumentation depending on which boss you're fighting. So Grant's music will sort of percolate throughout the entire game, but they only really needed him to compose one song, which obviously, considering the modest Kickstarter budget, was probably more in keeping with the realities of production.
But still really fucking
It's
cool.
great, and we've gotten to hear Grant's song, and it's amazing, and the way Gooseworks is appropriating it is even that much more amazing. It's perfect. So,
And plus, Chad and I get to be in the game credits with Grant Kirkhope, which is
Oh God.
yeah, it's
Now I'm jealous.
but anyway, we're like I don't want to lean too heavily on Lobo because we're
biased.
We're obviously biased, and we should probably save that for a show where we bring Jamie back on to talk about it when there's more to talk about.
because we don't even know what we can talk about.
Right.
So-
We have to be very cagey and irritatingly obtuse.
Which is if you notice, we haven't really mentioned Lobo much on the conversation in a good long while, and that's because we're kind of in deep with it now, and it's like, oh, keep these worlds separate.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
but Hyle and I mean, outside of our day jobs and outside of our DK Vine commitments, we spend 2 to 3 evenings every week working on Lobodestroyo. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a big part of our free time is going into this game, in addition to the rest of the left-handed team.
And so, you know, if Hat in Time is trying to tap into some sort of Nintendo 3D platforming aesthetic, you can rest assured with Jamie and us and everybody on the left-handed team, we're definitely working to bring that kind of old school Rare mentality with Lobodestroyo. And of course, a lot of the thinking behind it was, well, you know, Rare is stuck in Kinect's purgatory, and we're not going to get a game like this again, so it's going to have to be made by the fans.
Right. Well, but however, that was recently overturned when, potentially overturned when there were these rumors that Rare is going to return to their true form of, you know, making that they're currently in development on a quote unquote Rare title, which is
Phil Spencer, you know, for as much shit as we've thrown at him, he actually seems like a kind of a cool guy.
yeah, okay. Wait, who's the guy? Who's the corporate monkey that we hate? Was that also Phil Spencer? No. Who's the one that was the bowling, the best ever on any platform?
I don't remember.
Oh, that was Craig Duncan at Rare.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't hate Craig.
No.
Duncan.
But we think that he's
we mocked that quote quite a bit.
yes, because it is the perfect embodiment of
Corporate PR speak.
Oh yeah, it's PR speak. It's basically telling the public what your bosses want to hear you say.
Right. It lacked the authenticity we were used to hearing from Rare, or the tongue-in-cheek piss takes we were used to hearing from Rare.
right. The best bowling ever on any platform.
You probably added an extra ever.
No,
or two in
I
there.
think there were at least 3-4 evers.
Yeah, but you know, these games of telephone we play, or should I say, we pay, where we just take something and misremember it and then stretch it out into the absurdist limit. Anyway, so Phil Spencer is kind of like all about this returning Rare to its roots movement, you know, and he's
All right, I have the quote: "The best bowling that's ever been, ever on any platform."
Oh, wow. So you actually omitted an
I did.
ever
I went
initially.
3. Craig Duncan used 4.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, so Phil Spencer, he's like, you know, he wants to let Rare be Rare. I think those were his words. And so there's, for the last 2 years, since the Xbox One was announced, there have been rumors, partially from DK Vine forum member I Am Gibbon, I believe, who has some sort of toehold in the games industry, like Kevin Callahan. But he said he's heard that a new Banjo-Kazooie was in the works, and there have been rumors and from various other places that yes, a new Banjo game is in the works. And now Phil Spencer's coming out and says, "Let rare be rare, unleash the hounds."
Right, and which honestly, that's if you are a guy who oversees Rare, the best thing you could do is let rare be rare.
Yeah, they don't. Obviously, they needed a little bit of oversight in that they couldn't get games finished in the mid-aughts, but they didn't also need to be cut off at the balls.
Right, it was an overreaction.
Yes, and considering the amount of money they paid for Rare, I think they would have actually liked some return on that investment.
Right.
So, I mean, they did the Xbox avatars. I'm not saying and Viva Pinata was a mild success, so it's not like
it was a big success.
I guess. I mean, it spawned how many sequels? It.
Yeah, I mean that was Viva Pinata was probably the most profitable thing Rare ever did during the buyout era.
Oh yeah, I mean it was definitely the highlight. So. Yeah. I don't want to say the whole Xbox. I don't want to be one of those fans that writes off the whole Microsoft era.
You mean
Rare,
the Rare Rich Project?
or anybody on Facebook.
Right. Yeah. Everyone. Rareware fans unite. Fuck you people. Come on.
There's a lot of good people at Rare. A lot of good new people who have never worked on the classic games we love. And there's still an amazing studio. It's just they haven't been able to do their own thing.
Exactly. Give the. It's so frustrating because people are not able to separate the fact that they are fans of a thing from the they're not able to separate that concept from the fact that there are real flesh and blood human beings that actually execute these things that they are fans of, and that sometimes there are realities that interfere with their ability to execute those things you would like to see them execute. And it's really frustrating to see those talented people vilified for something that they have largely no control over.
Right, and perhaps we went too far in the other direction where we vilified Microsoft and still apparently do. But
well, no, look, but what we've tried to do, especially in recent years.
I felt guilty because, to be honest, I didn't realize it was kind of Microsoft that basically pushed Rare into making nuts and bolts what it was. I thought that was all Rare's idea. So when I played it and all the things came up about this isn't what gamers want, they don't want a platformer, they want a vehicle game. This is way better. This is a new idea. If you don't like it, you're just backwards thinking. I kind of resented it a bit at the time. If I'd kind of known that it was Microsoft that did that, I probably would have appreciated it. Well, I still do like nuts and bolts, but I would have appreciated it a bit more had I known that it wasn't the intention to make that game.
Yeah, and granted, I mean, I had kind of the same reaction because at that point it was all too fresh and everyone was too, everyone who worked on Nuts and Bolts was still employed at Rare and they weren't being quite as candid. And, after the fact, the truth of that game's production and inspiration has come out. But
yeah, what did it? I mean, has there really been an expose on Nuts and Bolts and what led them to that?
Not like a consolidated expose, but we've been able to pick up bits and pieces in such a way that we can kind of infer that that's not the game that the team really wanted to make. It was a pre-existing concept that basically got the Banjo license. Because that's what corporate said would sell. So that seemed to be the surest thing to Microsoft. So they put a known IP on it and packaged it up. And what Rare was doing by way of all that dialogue that was very snarky was sort of exercising their own internal demons in such a way that they wouldn't get fired for it. But now we know at least enough of the truth to know that they were not the drivers of that direction, or at least the entire team was not. But what's unfortunate is that even though so much time has passed and we now know so much more about Nuts and Bolts' inception and production, there's still a very vocal contingent of the quote-unquote fan base that maintains that Rare is entirely at fault for what Nuts and Bolts was, and that they ought to be vilified for it. And it's
just the stupid gaming fandom.
It's a poisonous echo chamber.
There's no nuance in these circles. It's only black and white.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Crossfire of fandom. You know, CNN Crossfire. It's just
not
two
the 90s
viewpoints.
board game with an awesome commercial.
Crossfire.
You get caught up in the...
And also somebody, we made that joke once, and somebody said, "Oh, you're James Rolfe fans, you're angry video game nerds," because he apparently made a video about Crossfire. No, we are just actually children of the 90s. We actually lived it.
Yeah, we're just
and witnessed it
Crossfire
ourselves.
fans. Shut
Yeah.
up.
Childs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
before Donkey Kong Country, we were Crossfire.
that's
fans.
right. Yeah. Honestly, I wished that Donkey Kong Country was part of the CFU, but it was not meant to be.
Anyway, so these rumors that there's been a Banjo-Kazooie revival in the works. And there's two possibilities. One, it is being made by Rare, or it's being made by a different studio, a la Killer Instinct.
Right. I
And
would...
because there is the Battletoad in the room here, where obviously Battletoads is in the works, and that's either made by Rare or another studio. So,
Well, the fact that...
I very much doubt Rare is making two games at once.
I disagree. I think that probably even in the Kinect Sports era, there were always at least two streams at Rare that were working on R&D for new titles at the same time as,
Honestly,
approved for release projects. There's gotta be
my opinion
enough
of if we
people.
get Banjo. My opinion, if we get Banjo 1E or not, I think it doesn't even matter. I don't even care because we've got A Hat in Time, Lobodestroyo, and this new game by Playtonic. Fuck it. I'd rather just play those three, enjoy those three, which are all probably going to be awesome. And we won't even need Banjo 1E for the Xbox One. It certainly saves me spending £400 or however fucking much those stupid bricks cost on an Xbox One.
So for you, I've been burned by the red ring too. That was on the previous one, but still,
I've been burned twice by the Red
once
Ring.
bitten, twice shy.
Then again, I shouldn't have toured Thailand.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, my red ring was really burning the other night after I had a really spicy curry.
Oh, like a butthole.
Yeah.
So Joe, what you're saying is basically for you, which is a strange inversion of the way I used to feel. The indie games are now the cake, and whatever Rare puts out is the icing.
Well, Joe just doesn't want to buy an Xbox One, so
My dad will probably get one. If he does, I'll buy anything Rare puts out for it that will be good. And also Sunset Overdrive. Just how I bought all of Rare's great games for the Xbox and the Xbox 360, and occasionally play them on his Xbox as well. But I wouldn't buy an Xbox One just for a new Banjo game. I would be like, I'm sorry, it's too late. You've lost me now. I can just get this, from indie games, which are doing a great job at recapturing that old magic. And
yeah, well, no, actually, Joe, I would say I would even purchase an Xbox One just to play Banjo, but I would do it very begrudgingly. So, I mean, I don't know, that might just be me showing my fandom colors, but
no, I agree. I would definitely. I mean, to have a classic Banjo game that's really, really good, I would spend $400 for that.
yeah, but it's
Not a
the
question.
kind of $400 that you really wish you didn't have to spend.
they've lost me. I wouldn't even buy my own Xbox 360. I thought about it so I could easily play nuts and bolts whenever I wanted, but nah. Just nah.
No, the only reason you need a 360 is so you can download XBLA Classics, Banjo-Kazooie, Tooie, and Grab by the Ghoulies, and play those whenever you want.
I've got Ghoulies on a disc, and I've got Tooie on download, and I've got Kazooie on a Nintendo 64 cartridge. So I've already done that as well.
You got Tooie on a download?
Yeah, I still can't get a cheap cartridge. They're really, really expensive. They're like at least £40.
Anyway, so Playtonic. Let's come back around to Playtonic.
Right. Well, they've got obviously their website that they launched just this week is inspired by Rareware, so they're looking to
Rareware, the classic iteration of Rare's website.
Lee Loveday's site, basically.
Rareware's
Lee
Sam.
Loveday's personal.
Right. They're trying to clearly evoke not only that style of like, a human being behind the text on the website as opposed to like a corporate marketing entity. But even the Playtonic logo it's a gold charm on a field of navy blue. It is the Rare logo with a different thing instead of the open R, is beautiful.
It's the Rareware logo.
Right, Rareware, yes.
Yeah, not the one that came after or the one that came after that.
Not the Welcome to Rare logo.
No, or not the ever-expanding origami anus that is the current Rare logo.
Right. But it seems like
they just add more jaggedy parts onto it as the years go by.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah.
On a yearly basis. Thanks, Ted.
I can't wait to see it in TED Talks 3.
There's never going to be a TED Talks 3. That's not going to happen. But it's very nice to see that obviously the people at Playtonic are keenly aware of what the fan base fell in love with and wants to see from them, and they're doing everything in their power to revisit that.
Oh my God! Even the why hello there. They make a joke where we've just gotten started. We've barely left the Shire, and Sean Bean's still an all right guy. And that's just such a Lee Loveday line.
Oh yeah, what I told you when I copied and pasted that to Hyle in a Skype chat and just said I got wet. Because it was like, oh my God, there's someone talking about a banjo game using Lord of the Rings references? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I love it. I love it.
Really quick, let's talk about the team, the people behind Playtonic.
Real quickly, because we're already like 2 hours and 15 minutes into this episode.
2 hours, 15 minutes. Well, whatever. We're talking about 3D platforming.
I'm actually starting to get a bit tired. I want to go to bed.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. right now for Joe.
Yeah, this is an episode about 3D platformers. It has to be long, drawn out, and overly excessive.
It's got to be as long and drawn out and meticulous as a 101% playthrough of Donkey Kong 64.
I'm going to collect every red banana in this entire episode.
Yeah, Joe, if you're tired, we'll just tag you out and have Jeff come in, or Matt, or Cameron. They have to collect their items too, so it's fine.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Cameron Regal's favorite catchphrase is cool.
Kikazaru. All right. So we got leading up the team, the project director and software engineer Chris Sutherland, who in-game only fans of the Banjo series will remember as one of the names in Davy Jones's locker.
That's right, but he's also a man behind Donkey Kong Country. He was Viva Pinata. He's so much of the DKU is Chris Sutherland. Right, it's just amazing that he's involved.
Right, well, and he's a programmer, which gives me a lot of hope in this project because it's not just when you look at the rest of the members of the team, it's a very art heavy group, but Chris Sutherland he's an engineer. He's the kind of guy that can actually make sure that they can execute this vision. So I really like that he's directing the project, and he's like the lead software engineer. So it's promising to see just from a feasibility point of view. They've also got Gavin Price as the managing director and creative lead, who is a 15-year veteran at Rare. He's only got a decade less time under his belt than Mr. Sutherland.
Slacker.
Yeah, he worked on Ghoulies, Banjo, Viva Pinata, and Connect Sports. So he's a design guy.
Mm-hmm. Now there's Steve Males, who oh my God, this is a big get too. The character art director is Steve Males, who, as it says in his bio, he's responsible for creating the modern-looking Kong family on the Donkey Kong Country series.
And what we've come to find out is that we always knew that it was between Steve Males and Kev Bayless that largely designed the characters from the Kong trilogy, at least part 1 and 2. But what we recently discovered was that Steve Males designed Dixie Kong and K. Rool. whereas Kev Bayless was behind Diddy, the new Donkey Kong, and other characters. So those Dixie and K. Rool are specifically ones we can attribute to Steve. So it's really awesome that he's on this project.
Boy, he must have loved Smash 4.
Yeah, clearly. So a lot of the concept art that we've seen is probably from Steve's hand.
Yeah, and there's also let's see, going down this list here is Jens Restemeyer.
Yeah, Jens
That was
Restemeyer
Jens, I think. Jens.
Yeah, is that Jens? Is that how you do it? Okay. And sorry, Jens. But he was at Rare for 8 years, and
Right.
He was on the handheld team.
He was on the handheld
Jens.
team. Yeah,
Jens, probably. All right.
Jens worked on probably some of the Game Boy Advance titles, and then the I would assume Diddy Kong Racing DS, and that's pretty much where the handheld team left off.
That's right. There's Stephen Hurst, the environment art director. He was he did a lot of background art for Donkey Kong Country, the Banjo series, Ghoulies. I mean, oh my God, like that's a guy I want to have lunch with.
So what you've got here now is you've got character art from Steve Mails, you've got environment art from Stephen Hurst. So if we're talking about what some of this concept art, like probably the aforementioned Donkey Kong Country-esque leaves that were surrounding those eyeballs were probably from Stephen Hurst. So it's nice to see that this is a guy that's contributed to the amazing looking environments of Rare's past, and anyone will tell you, regardless of what you think about Rare's games, they're always gorgeously rendered environments in them.
People debate that now. They say, "Oh, they looks ugly." Yeah.
Oh, fuck those people. Stephen Hurst is a badass. And rounding up the group is Mark Stevenson, who's a technical art director who was at Rare for a solid 2 decades, working on Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong 64, Cameo, worked on Connect Sports. So he's probably... I'm looking at the title Technical Art Director, and I'm assuming he's largely involved in writing some of the engines for rendering these graphics. That's speculation on my part, but... you can't program an entire game on the back of Chris Sutherland. So I'm thinking that between him, Jens Restemeyer, and Mark Stevenson, they've got more of the technical side, whereas Stephen Hurst, Steve Mails, and Gavin Price are on the design and art side.
Now, do you think this game, wrapping up this conversation, do you think this game will hurt the indie games, the games that came about because we weren't getting this style of game? Do you think it's going to affect Hat in Time and Lobo?
Well, first of all, this is an indie game.
That's true, but it's also like an indie game made by the same people who made the games that the people who make Hat in Time and Lobo love. So, do you think it's going to affect that, or do you think there's room at the table for all parties?
The latter.
Yeah, I agree, because if we are on the verge of a 3D platforming renaissance, there's gonna need to be more than one game. I mean, there's gonna be a demand, and if and I know we were talking, like, if that burden is off Hat in Time and Lobo's shoulders, that's even better for them, since they're first time indie developers. So yeah, this is an indie developed game, but it's also made by some real heavyweights of the industry. So
right.
I think that it's a great thing for Hat in Time and Lobo that this game is coming, because the burn's off them, and it's going to whet people's appetites as well as their panties, and they're going to want more of this.
Yeah. It's only a good thing. It's going to, if this game, well, it already has a higher profile than Hat in Time and Lobodestroyo, and that is only going to then feed into the related games, especially given the likely connective tissue of Grant Kirkhope being a part of the team for all three. So
right. Well, yeah, if Grant is part of this.
That's what I'm saying.
I would be shocked if he wasn't.
All indications point to Grant composing for Playtonic's title.
God, that was the most narrow Magic 8-Ball I've ever had. All indications point to Grant. I didn't know what that meant.
Finally, you understand. Yeah. And from that moment in 1993 when this Magic 8-Ball was talking about Grant.
I went to the toy store. I could choose between the Magic 8-Ball and Crossfire. I don't know why I chose that Magic 8-Ball.
This has been a File 2 production. Que rico.